egg, 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 egg,
Analyze being evil and the pursuers.
Think of all the mistakes and the joy that they bring.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi everyone. Oh, I have to. I thought I got your. Hold on. No, I have to. Oh! Hello. I have to adjust your model.
Okay. Why am I blushing?
You are blushing. Why are you blushing like that?
I'm not trying to work out is this one.
There we
When
go.
I look on screen, there's gonna be a delay there. I need to look at the program. There you go. Turn off. There we go. Hello, everyone.
Hi. I hope you're all doing good. Happy. It's the new year now. We're in 2020, 2024 now.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're gonna be annoyed at me again.
What? What? Oh, come on.
I realized I had myself flipped.
Damn it.
I'm sorry, Zoe.
Can't believe you did this to me.
I've ruined everything, truly.
It's so true. Stream cancelled.
What the fuck?
But hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing good. I hope you had a very nice New Year's Eve celebration and all that stuff.
You better have done.
Yippee! Any space hats? Well, we've got Samus's helmet, but I'll look what else we've got.
Good old Sammy.
Good old Sammy. So we got that one. We got a model ZX hat drawn by Niesna from the community. And that is all the space hats we have.
I guess Samus is the closest.
I guess so. We also have a hard hat. Imagine car battery disabled. Oh, right, because the last one was a face cam. If you could re-enable those, Jody, that'd be wonderful.
I will work on that now.
Thank you. But yeah, it is the new year. How exciting or whatever. In truth, it's all artificial. It's all just like stuff we came up with.
Time is an illusion, really.
Like, time is not an illusion, but the way we measure it, the way we measure it is an illusion, right?
Yes.
So whatever. But hey, it's a good excuse to have a nice. Ow!
There's a pause redeem here called add buffer. What's that one?
Oh yeah, no, you can just keep that
Okay, fair
done.
enough.
What it does is it causes an ad to play in 30 seconds or something after it's redeemed, and the idea was like, oh, because then, oh no! Or not 30 seconds after. I think it's just like it tells me to do an ad, because if you do an ad, then for the next so many times, so many minutes or something, nobody gets ads.
Yeah.
But nobody ever redeemed it, so I just got rid of it.
Fair enough, makes sense.
Yeah. I wasn't there for the face cam stream, but I have to say something. It's not fair that your physical form and digital form are adorable. Thank you. I try.
You succeed.
Thank you. Yay. The Meme Maker doesn't work?
Wait, what?
It didn't work, or it just wasn't available?
I have. Well, it was never disabled because you could use it in the last stream.
Huh.
You could use it to point at the flesh homunculus. This work is just a cooldown.
Oh, it's on cooldown. Well, Space Junk says something different. I don't know. Anyway, it does have a lengthy cooldown. That is true. But it's a new year, and it's time for more Halo. We're gonna beat Halo. Hello. We're gonna beat Halo 1 today. It's giving me a different message than usual. You might have to refresh your page then, Space Junk. Anyway, so had. Did you?
New year, new me.
The illusion gets me gifts twice a year. It's cool. Yeah, no, that's right. Like the new year, it starts and you're like, oh, okay, cool. You know, you're like, wow, yay, new year. But like nothing actually changes when you get into new year, right?
It's true.
I'll do the Samus hat.
These three things are just as bad as they always were.
Don't say that.
I'm sorry.
This is a positive stream where we say hello.
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 We say hello to the new year.
Omega on the icon on the top right of the display. You got it?
I'd like to remind everyone that's not the year of the dragon yet. Please learn what a lunar new year is.
That is true. That is true. Turns out I'm still obsessed with Aizawa-san, so I guess you permanently broke my brain, and I have my very own. I'm in love with the villain now. You're welcome. It's good. I'm very excited for new issues of that one, new chapters. Every year of the year is the year of the dragon if you believe hard enough. I think, just like Luigi, it is still the year of Luigi. I think.
So true.
So true.
It's still year of the rabbit, motherfuckers.
That's fucking right.
We're still in it.
Hell yeah,
it,
Jody.
gang.
Hell yeah, Dusty. You
Hell
know.
yeah.
Hell yeah, Rabbit. Our friend Rabbit.
It's still my year, baby. Fuck you.
But yeah, since it's the start of the year, I don't have that much interesting stuff to talk about.
Egg.
Except we are now in the month that I will finally be getting my bottom surgery, which I'm very excited about. I'm gonna be so happy when it happens. Also on hiatus. Hopefully I'll be able to take that time to finally get some real progress on my next model. God, that's like my big thing this year. Like I have to fucking work for myself. I have to do my own
Yes,
things.
true.
I keep getting I keep accepting like, oh, I'll do a thing for a friend. Oh, I'll fucking do this or that or. God, I just gotta work for myself. I want to make my we're gonna make my own things, you know. So,
May I ask how long you're planning your hiatus to be?
like a month, because
That's good.
after the surgery, I'm gonna have to like take it really easy for a month. So, so I was like, okay, I'll do a month, you know.
Makes sense.
Like
makes sense.
obviously, I could probably just keep streaming because it's just sitting here and playing my games and shit. But which is what I'm doing anyway. You know, like when I get my bottom surgery, that's all I have to do is just sit here. But still, I'm just gonna take it easy and try to get some
I
fucking
do
work
have
done.
to imagine the after bottom surgery though, like even sitting's gonna be a little bit. Obviously,
for a bit,
I don't
yes.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a good thing to sit here for 4 hours and stream probably. Probably need to do some sort of exercise.
Maybe
Not exercise, but like
walking. They want to make sure I
Yeah.
walk. It's more
Yeah.
so that like it'll hurt for it. Oh, ow! Speaking of hurting.
Oh, you died. You have perished horribly.
Girl Queen.
Yay! Don't cry.
I am just a fish. Na 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 na. I am just a fish. Na na na. But yeah, like for a while it'll just still kind of hurt down there, so that also
Yeah.
won't be very. I might not be really feeling up to streaming anyway.
Not very energetic.
That was so cool. What? Yeah, I got a whole fun roulette that I made
Yeah.
myself using Touch Portal. It's very cool. Hiccup. Oh fucking Christ! No.
Fimsh.
But yeah, I really fucking
Being
want
a
to get
fish
some.
gives you hiccups.
It's true. That's all fish actually have hiccups. That's canonical. That's why they keep like. Why they do that every time one of those is a hiccup? But you know, in space no one can hear you scream, and underwater nobody can hear you hiccup.
Does that mean that Yippee Queen is a fish?
No.
No.
Not, listen, all fish do puppies, but not all those who puppies are fish. You know,
Who puppies?
puppies.
Like the flower.
Yeah. So can I put you in my insane aquarium tank? I think I'd have fun there. But I also don't know if I would fit. Because I'm like person sized, and I think the insane aquarium is kind of small. You know? But today we're gonna play Hello. We did one stream of it already. Today we're gonna beat it. First though, we're gonna do the eggs. So
Yo.
remember, if you have but one little egg, you can already spend it on an egg to put on stream. Wow, here we go. The first egg is by Dynalope.
Yay!
That's you. And then we've
That's
got
me.
Kira Cat, Esteemed Jester, Taserfish. Wow, we were just talking about fish. Muzzleflesh, Lucina of Stardust,
Egg.
Green Clunk, Mini Minervisa, I think. Mike Loves Rabbit,
Egg.
Rootsatera, That Cheesy Lad, Etrim Toa, Benj Dude, oh, Egg Queen, not a blood name, sorry.
No, too few syllables.
So, was this Benj Dude? Probably.
Yeah, but
Fred Fucks, Radiant Sunbun, Arliss Bloxer, Zero Elec, and that is the first stag done. And then we've got the Harvest Goddess, HRT Monitor, nice,
nice.
the Shame Hole, and that is the starting eggs for today.
Yuri Queen is also not valid only.
No, it is.
Is it? Isn't Yuri one syllable?
No, what? No, what?
Yuri.
Yuri.
No, I guess it's two syllables.
How would that be two?
I don't know. It's usually if I can say something fast enough, I assume it's one syllable.
That's not how that works.
I know it's not how. I know it's not how it works, Zoe. It's just it's easier than fucking spelling it out with like going Yuri.
Yeah, but that okay.
And
You
usually I'm correct.
Well, I know of one instance. Out of one instance, 100% of the time that I know you were wrong. So.
Okay, well. Shut up.
All right, so. So we're gonna go into the game now, but I know some of you might not have been there for the first one or something, or you kind of like forgot a little bit. So let me give you guys a little bit of a recap of our first Hello Greetings Evolved stream.
In the beginning, there was the Earthen Greeting Committee. They were on a grand diplomatic mission to say hello to civilizations across the stars. They met with the Covenant Greeters, a rival greeting committee. What followed was a brutal, friendly engagement in which many good greeters took naps. In the middle of this nice time, we find our four main characters. The Master Chefs, who had to hang up their chef aprons that said shake the chef's hand and take up greeting apparatuses in the friendly conflict due to low staffing. Mr. Chief, the stupid guy who sucks and doesn't do anything, who the Master Chefs involuntarily merge into sometimes during pivotal story moments. And Cortana, she's purple for now. Our intrepid heroes and Mr. Chief and Cortana crash land the Earthen Greeting Committee mothership into the Halo, a big circle with stuff on it. There, the friendly engagements continue. The Master Chefs had a great time meeting up with their fellow Earthen Greeters and saying lots of hellos to the Covenant Greeters. That was until they uncovered something terrible. Imprisoned within the Halo was a horrifying threat, something which knew no greeting, only death. The Bad Balloons. Given no other option, the Master Chefs forsake their sacred greater oath and turned the safety off on their greeting apparatuses and began to fight back against this new foe. The two fought their way through the hordes of freaky meanies until a new being calling itself Guilty Spark whisked our heroes away into the library. Will this be where the chefs learn of a way to say hello that will quell the darkness in the Dark Balloons' hearts? And will the Earthen Greeting Committee and the Covenant Greeters be able to discuss a merger against this common foe? And what of Captain Keys, whom I have forgotten to mention until this point? Find out now in today's episode of Hello Greeting Evolved.
Did all that happen?
Yeah, it did. You were there.
Oh. I don't remember any of that. Wow. Amazing. Thank you for the recap.
You're welcome.
Sorry, Misty, could you repeat?
Don't worry, I'll make a highlight of it and post it later. Anyway, that was the thing I prepared.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that everybody who came into this one and hadn't seen the first one understood that we are not playing Halo. We are playing Hello.
I'm so glad that the fear in my eyes was apparently apparent.
Why would you have fear? It was such a good because the story's just that intense, right?
You'll see when you watch back on it. I pushed the actions of my model to the max for that one.
Good. So why did they make a pair of chefs into ambassadors? You'd think they get diplomats for that. Well, no, they are. It's just like everybody on the greeting committee is a diplomat. They are all fantastic greeters. It's just that someone also has to make food, you know?
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. You know how they say like the path to a man's heart is through his stomach? It's the same for everyone, really. Like I don't know why they have to gender it, you know, you just have to. Stop sending me invites that come through thick and fast. You fucking wench, cease your actions at once.
Good. So I guess we just select a mission, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, there's a resume button. Yay!
Oh, nice.
We'll return. Co-op campaign will return you to the beginning of the mission instead of the most recent checkpoint. Yep.
Yep, we were at the beginning of the mission anyway, so.
Yeah, mambalea, mambalina. Caperina. Whoa, yeah, mambalea, mambalina. But yeah, I hope you guys like my beautiful recap that I prepared.
It was
We
very
prepared it
good.
together
You
and stuff.
Yeah. You did most of the work. I'm ready to beat the bad balloons into a fucking pulp.
We will. Dr. Rudy 9 Numpad, hello, thank you very much for following. But yeah, we are going to keep this. I, at least, am going to keep this bed up for as long as I can. It's also not a bit.
really
This is just the. This is.
Oh no, it's switched back to HD graphics for me again. Why does it keep
I'm
doing
so glad
that?
it hasn't done that for me. Ow, because
keeps
you haven't selected that one
defaulting
as. I mean, do you have original graphics selected as the default in the graphics?
I didn't know it was the default, so I'll have to fix that.
Stop it.
There, that's better.
Oh, we're here. The
Yo,
library.
we're here. Hello.
Oh, there's balloons.
Where? I didn't see them.
worry,
Behind you,
I'll-
sorry.
Oh shit!
We're surrounded.
Oh god.
You gotta check your flanks. Oh, there's a chicken up there.
Yeah, well, you gotta excuse me. I was not
Okay.
trained for this. I was trained for hellos.
This is... It's fine, Zoe. Just check your corners.
You got it.
What?
This Guilty Spark fellow seems friendly. They're like they're having fun laughing and so. Careful!
We are near the index chamber. Follow me.
Oh
What the
crap!
fuck was that?
Shit,
Oh, this one's
shit.
got a gun.
Oh my god! They're using the greeting apparatus
able-
against us.
Yes, sorry, the green apparatus.
I know it's easy to call them a gun. Some people do, but you know,
Yeah.
it causes confusion.
I don't know why we didn't
fuck.
call them the greeting gun. That's much more alliterative.
Yeah, well then it still has like the connotations of an actual gun, which
Okay.
they are also, like if you take the safety off, but
Okay,
you
but I
know.
like guns.
Sure, but guns are
I
just
think
kind
we
of like
could bond over a nice fire round.
probably. But you know, it's not what you start with when greeting someone, you know?
Oh, a shot. Sorry, shot greeting apparatus.
No, those were actually shotguns, remember?
Oh, okay. I did not do my research on the law before he came back in the stream.
Okay, hold on. I should pick up a different gun. I mean,
Pick up a wheel gun.
I should pick
A
up
wheel gun.
a wheel greeting apparatus. Gun stands for greeting with unnecessary noises. That's kind of cute.
Noises are very necessary. It's so people can hear you greet them properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You don't want to sneak up on people, you see. You need to make sure they can hear you. And that's what the Big Bang is for, so they're like, oh.
Oh no!
Did you fall off?
Yeah, I did. They're like guns, but they shoot hellos instead of bullets. Yeah, they
this way.
they what? Okay. Yo,
We
do you
gotta follow the
I
greeting
forgot
spark.
they shoot greeting energy or whatever. I forgot the thing.
Greeting energy.
What? How did we? How did they work again? Also, don't forget we can also greet each other, so be careful of that.
That's true. I think my explanation was that because we're chefs, they shoot hors d'oeuvres.
Oh yeah, they shoot the hors d'oeuvres.
I died. Yeah. They shoot little snacks. I got blown the fuck up. You can do it, sorry, I believe in you.
I'm gonna say hello
have
to
to
all these motherfuckers. Which is not what we're doing, as we've established. We are actually
Yeah,
just shooting them.
we actually killed them. These ones are actually dying. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to respawn it because it's always like, oh, and too many enemies
Oh yeah,
nearby.
I
But
should
if I
probably
remember,
just
these
keep
enemies
going,
are
huh?
infinite.
Yeah, you're
these enemies
right.
are infinite, so I don't think I'm ever
Oh my
gonna be
god.
able to respawn.
I was like, oh my god, there's a dead Master Chef here, but it's you.
Yes, me! You forgot there was a second Master Chef.
Ow. Okay, yeah, that's a lot of bullets.
It took 3 seconds off. Oh, well. It took 3 seconds after my untimely death for you to forget about me.
I'm sorry, I have small
Oh,
brain.
wait, we've been
This way, this way.
Yeah, this way. Yeah.
This new friendly fellow we've met is pointing us over here.
Yeah. I think we should call him 343 Happy Spark.
I
He
think we
seems so
should.
happy.
He does seem very happy. So this is the library, so this is where we're like
Yeah.
gonna learn about all kinds of new greetings and hellos and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
we'll learn so many new hello in so many new languages.
Yeah, right? This is wonderful.
Think of all the new cultures we'll be able to say hello to.
Right? I love our new friend, Friendly Spark, or Happy Spark.
Happy Spark. Joyful Spark.
Joyful Spark. I think that should be his name. We'll run it by him in a
Me too.
moment when we get to him again.
We'll run it by him. We, the
Belle, we just
committee,
met,
have
but-
decided to rename you.
There was a shotgun here. Someone had a shotgun. Where was? Oh, there we go. Oh god! Cool. Alright, let's go. Oh, yeah, I do got fish brain, so I just forget things instantly again.
That makes sense, that makes sense.
More shotgun? No.
The British arriving in a place for the first time. Hey, I know we just met, but we decided to rename you.
Fucked up, honestly. Where's my grenade gun? For all the books, the library funding is really becoming a problem. It's the
really
future,
is.
bud. It's all digital. Duh.
Then why do they need this much space?
Servers.
I wonder if there's anything over here.
Careful, careful from behind.
Oh fuck. Oh, the door's open. We can go.
Oh, good, good, good.
This game should have a sprint, I think.
God, I fucking shit. I'm pretty sure they added in later games, right?
I don't know. I've never played later games.
You brought such an
You played 2.
to combat the flood, despite
I did play 2. They sprinted 2. I can actually remember. Chat, if you know if they added a sprint to 2, tell me.
Wait, I totally forgot like the cliffhanger at the end of the last episode, which was that like you were like you just started shooting the bed balloons before like even trying diplomatic to like appeal to them or anything, and you're like, oh my god, you're right, maybe I'm a bad greeter. Hold on, I have to do my character.
Yeah, you were gonna have a character. I thought you purposely decided against that. I didn't realize
No, I
you'd
just
forgotten
forgot.
about your character arc. Oh no.
Hold on, let me get in the.
Get the
Okay, but-
mindset son whose worldview is destroyed.
But also, then you have to be the positive one. Do you think you can do that?
So you know me. Do you think I can be the positive one?
I don't think you could.
Actually,
I'm
thinking
over it.
back on it. Yeah, thinking back at it, if I remember, the lore I decided was this guy had brought us here to fire us for shooting the guy shooting people. And we completely forgot about it.
The new lore is better. That is also funny though. But I think the new lore that we've got prepared for Joyful Spark fits a little better. We can play with that lore.
So you gotta remember these guys are infinite, so we just gotta keep
forget.
moving.
I always forget. I'm pretty sure like every other time I've ever played Halo 1, I just forget about that, and I'm just fucking around shooting them forever.
Yeah. Forever.
Forever.
I'm gonna shoot them forever. Oh, look out.
Ooh. Yeah, sorry about the retcons, Chad. I'm gonna die. Are we supposed to go down there?
No, there's a power up down here, so I got it.
Oh. I'd like a power
Sorry,
up.
there wasn't one for you.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna pick up an assault rifle again because the shotgun is proving ill effective against the little guys. Well, I think one of us needs an automatic weapon at least. And I guess I'll take the hit. Ow. It's shooting
I mean, I'm also using assault rifle, so.
I thought you said your pistol. Not that the pistol's particularly effective against these guys either.
Not against the horde, no. Again, if you're just shooting a single one, then yeah.
I
You
absolutely
almost never are.
despise the exploding ones. The exploding ones suck.
Yeah, they're stupid. Yeah, we got different writers this episode, is the thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Disney decided to cancel us, so we're having to hurry through the character arc.
Yeah. Jody and I'm showing Jody Owl House.
Yes.
Okay, well, we have to go. Let's move.
Yeah, we have to move. Yes, I don't know. I'm just like, I'll hang around Zoe forgetting that you just said you forget they're infinite.
Yeah.
So I should just be pushing you.
This one?
Sorry, you went the
No.
wrong way.
Okay, yeah, so I did.
These sentinels will supplement your combat systems.
I mean, really, it's entirely their fault for daring to put so many gay characters in, to be honest.
Yeah, they should
Like
have
the
known better.
audacity, really. Yeah.
Dude, look at this fucking this future tech greeting technology beaming the greetings directly into their brains. I mean,
Why are they
their
exploding
safety's off, of
afterwards?
course, but
Yeah,
you
of
know.
course. But remember, we're meant to be killing these guys, so
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, I can recognize this tech. Like, this could also be used to say
I see,
hello.
I see.
I'm pretty sure Joyful Spark must be like some sort of machine designed to come up with new ways to greet.
Yeah. I also wish I could be the owl lady.
Man, don't we all?
She's just like me, for real, for real.
How did I turn
She
my
breaks the law just like me, for real, for real.
So real.
That's a good idea.
The difference between greeting and yeeting is dosage. I like that, actually. That's very fun.
Nice.
We're just overloading our greeting apparatuses to.
Flood activity has
To damage them.
in a drone control subsystem.
Kitchen gun.
Do you need health? There's stuff here.
I don't, I've got full health, actually, I'm doing remarkably well.
Damn. Okay.
This is much easier with a second person. This is much easier with a distraction for the enemy.
Yeah. This is ancient 4 greeter technology?
Look out!
Oh, fuck. Why am I
Hello,
reloading?
rabbit!
Hi, Rabbit! Halo, it's me, just a little play more. Yeah, Halo, like the location that we're on and not the
Yeah.
game.
Hello, it's me, haha, just a little joke.
Whoa, I just got an achievement for killing 100 Flood, which is the correct phrasing.
It is, yes.
What am I
There's a shotgun
fucking
ammo over
Christ?
here if you need it. Are you doing okay?
I was just like, God, I gotta move. But it's
There's
shotgun.
a health kit here, if you need one.
I would like one. Oh, there.
Doors open, let's go.
Go, go, go.
Yo, there's more drones.
Nice, more greeters.
Follow the blue spark. The guilty spark. Sorry, the happy spark.
The joyful spark.
The joyful spark. This
Yeah.
does not spark joy.
Of course he does. That's what he was built for.
Joy. No, not him. These
Oh,
things.
oh yeah, the bad balloons. No, those are bad. We hate those.
Yeah.
The Sentinels can use their
99
weapons to manage
mean
the flood
balloons.
only for a short time. Speed is of the essence.
At the stream respawn, I screen for this little floaty things are U-bots. Unfortunately not. Why didn't you mod the game to contain U-bots? Sorry, what were you thinking?
You want to shoot the U-bots?
I think they'd have fun with it.
Yeah, probably.
I think it would be enrichment for them.
That's true.
You have
U-bots
to
can,
train them, sorry.
U-bots can blow up all they want because like the person controlling them just like gets a new U-bot.
Yeah. They're so loaded into a new U-bot.
Yeah. Wow! The U-bots are here!
That is so cool.
Yeah. Wait, what?
I'm so happy. What?
One of the baboons was like on top of an auto greeter. I'm calling him that.
An auto greeter? Anyway, this level sucks.
It's not that good. It'd be better.
It's
Like
not
it
that
would
good.
need to be a little bit shorter. It would need to encourage you to just keep running better.
Yeah.
And it could use some intense
needs-
music.
It could use some variation in fucking level design because it all looks identical.
A little bit. I'm gonna
You
take this time
run,
to
you come
do
across
an
the
egg.
like same door, then it opens. The door's opening. Sorry, the door's opening.
Oh shit. Thank you, Rabbit, for your egg. I hope you're doing well. Also, I see there was a sippy. Also, you should get a
Never mind,
shout
that
out
was-
if there's any other mods in chat who are not forcefully greeting the bad balloons right now. They could use a potted plant at least, right? Like, Joyful Spark, you gotta, you know, learn some interior decorating.
Mr. Spark, if I may.
Please. Mr. Spark was his creator.
This sucker's creator. Call me Joyful.
Call him Joyful. Just
Just
like
like
when
that
the game
one
started.
series of
Oh,
really-
okay, so I haven't done that one yet. Okay. Did I do that
Just
one?
like that one
I didn't.
series of really grim RPGs. Spark the Joyful?
Spark the Joyful. Give me a second, let me do it as a sippy.
Okay. I will protect you from nothing. There's no one here actually. We've done it. We've killed every flood.
That is what we did.
Sorry.
We did kill them.
No,
They are
there's one over
baboons. The place is flooding with them though, so
It
I understand
is,
why
they
one
are
would want to call them that, but that's not their name.
It's not their name though.
Oh,
Fuck, gorilla.
Gorilla!
First instinct. It's like, oh fuck a gorilla.
My God! I'm just imagining fucking. If this was a game called Halo and the main character was called Master Chief, which is not the case at all, but I just imagine Master Chief going, "Oh fuck a gorilla!" They're just having to
Fuck
fight
a
a gorilla. That's good.
Why there's so many gorillas everywhere? What the fuck?
Jody's visit to the zoo gets violent.
My visit to zoo always gets violent. Usually it's with fucking kids or their parents tapping on glass. I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh,
Oh,
god fucking
fuck.
damn it, thing. It's the one with a fucking rocket launcher again.
Shit. I think you're still alive.
I'm dead.
Oh, I know you're still dead. You're dead.
Okay. Breaking fucking
What? Oh,
character
fuck
for a-
off.
Yeah, exactly. Breaking character for a second. If you've watched my stream of Halo 1, you'll know this is the part where he stopped having fun with the game.
Gorillas are kind of part of the Covenant is the thing about it.
Right.
Get down here.
This is the part where I started considering maybe Halo's a bad game, actually.
Maybe. Maybe games have flaws. Just maybe.
Just maybe. Maybe a little bit.
But yeah, this level is far too long for how little happens in it.
Yeah, it's far too long. It's like the same thing over and over and over again. There's no like variation. Gone are the lovely fields we were in earlier. Now we're just in grey, purple corridors.
Gone are the Covenant breeders who like move around a little bit more and hide behind stuff and things.
Exactly. It's just basically zombie survival at this point.
Oh, some by accident. That might help. I'm doing too hot.
So there are far too few fucking health kits here.
Also true. Ow.
Okay, right. I'm gonna try and
Give me that ammo.
greeting ball the guy with rocket launcher before he can get shot.
What did we call those again?
I threw all 3 of my grenades before he fucking.
We called them some sort of orb. Maybe
Yeah,
we just called them greeting orbs.
I think so.
Oh, I'm not doing good. I'm not doing good. I'm not doing good.
Keep moving, it's fine, I'm pushing forward.
I might have to go start taking naps. Just
No,
kidding, these
sorry,
guys
you
just
can't
kill
take a
us.
nap. Oh, it's true. So confusing the lore.
Sorry. Listen, Hello lore is just so deep and varied and stuff, you know?
It's true. Just keep running. I missed the warts. Where are the
Yeah,
warts?
like Banshee Strike says, like the real issue here is the lack of funny dudes who make sounds.
Yeah. We need more sounds.
Yeah, right. Where's our soundscapes? How can you say hello if you don't have sound?
We have truly
guys
said
just go,
goodbye
"Oh."
to the funny warts. I don't want to ride the elevator.
It's a good name.
Halo has a lot of good level names.
They really do. Hello, you mean?
Yeah. Hello, yes.
It's stupid.
The thing I've noticed though is both on my stream and this stream is we are blocking them the entire time they're on screen.
Yep.
I would conjecture that the other species.
So no one who's watched either our streams of Hello has seen the funny level names.
Persistent in their attempts to access restricted areas.
Wait, they just said that Joyful Spark said that the other species on the planet, meaning the Covenant Greeters, are responsible for releasing. Oh, nice, for releasing the bad balloons. How can that be?
Yes. How could?
Why would they do that? I thought they were on our side. We were all like connected in wanting to greet everyone.
Maybe we were taking their business. Maybe like they were like maybe they wanted a monopoly in the greeting business.
You think?
I think maybe that's what it is. I think maybe that's why they've. Oh fuck! That's a lot.
Oh my god.
I think that maybe that's why they've been less than amicable to our greetings.
They totally have. What do you mean? We've just been like a fun-friendly rivalry and greetings,
I think
you know?
they've been ignoring us. Sorry, I think they have been ignoring us completely.
Ignoring us.
They've been very sharp with us the whole time. I think maybe they're looking for a monopoly. I think they're trying to ignore anti-monopoly laws.
No, surely not.
Yes, I believe this in my heart.
They seem so nice. This is fucked
You know,
up.
sometimes people just aren't what you think they are. You know, sometimes they turn out to be different people.
I can't believe you think you know someone.
I know, right? Well,
But
you
like-
think you know every member of the Covenant, do you?
Yeah. But then why? Okay, so they released the bad balloons to try to kill us? Seems a little extreme, doesn't it?
Maybe it might have been an accident. You don't know.
Maybe it was
Maybe
just an
they learn-
accident.
Maybe they learn about the bad balloons and like, oh, we gotta release these guys to say hello to them. Which, honestly, still a dumb idea. Like, you don't walk into a prison and like, oh, I better release all these guys so I can say hello to them.
Yeah, I mean, these guys don't seem, they're not very receptive to hellos.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea.
Yo, I must open the cell of the Jeff that kills you to say hello. Oh no, who could have seen this coming? I have
Oh my
been Jeff
God.
the Killed.
I didn't think Jeff to kill me, said woman who released Jeff the Kill from the Jeff the Kill jail.
It's funny they built a whole jail for him.
Simply too dangerous.
That he's just that special and cool.
Sterilization protocols may and will be
That guy's on fucking rocket launcher, he misses me.
after the last catastrophic
Wait,
That
he's
guy
talking.
fired 2 rockets at me. Oh, sorry.
He's talking about a special greeting technology that he had.
Oh, that's
Maybe
good.
maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's going to greet the
Maybe
bad balloons so good that it's gonna.
Maybe their
But it's
hearts
gonna
will
turn
grow
him
3
around.
sizes this day.
Exactly. This might be just what we need. And then we can also, like, you know, get to the bottom of whether or not the Covenant greeters are bad.
I must say, I am wondering if there's gonna be any left to greet once we get to the fucking... once we get to the ultimate technology, because there are a lot of corpses in that path now. So
Well, we win either way, you know?
how's your health doing? Do you need this health?
Oh, I'm full, actually.
Okay, I'll take it.
To reproduce.
Trying to
Personally, I
keep
get
you alive
Jane
because you are the streamer.
That's fair, thank you. This weapon, thank you.
Bomb.
Weapon.
That one has a rocket launcher.
Oh, fuck, kill it.
I'm so sorry, dude. Hey, stood
Oh,
back up.
good job. We gotta go.
We gotta keep moving. This level's like double the length it needs to be.
It is. I mean, this is already like, we're already on another chapter. Like, this is literally just the same thing twice.
Yeah. They were really running out of time for this Halo game. This Halo game.
This Hello game, yeah. Too busy greeting everyone in real life, because that's what
Do
you
you
do.
know much about the development of Halo? Like,
I know that it was gonna be an RTS originally.
And RTS stands for?
Wait here.
Real-time strategy game. Real-time strategy specifically.
I thought you were gonna come up with a funny Hello greeting. Hello
Well, yeah,
name
it was
for
about greeting. It was strategic greeting rather than
it's
actual greeting.
strategic greeting. Yeah, more like diplomacy actually.
Yeah. Oh my god, we finally have music. This is crazy.
Yo,
I didn't know they still made that.
what music?
Yeah, in the future.
I thought this beamed all directly into our heads. The vibes of music.
Yeah.
It's all in the future. It's all lo-fi beats to relax and study to. It's nothing else.
That's what this is. We're listening to lo-fi beats right now.
Yeah, this is what they count as lo-fi beats in the future.
The future gets
You need to
crazy.
understand music has advanced so much that this counts as lo-fi beats now.
All music is breakcore in the future. And 100 gags. 100 gags are actually like presidents of planet Earth right now.
Fucked up. I don't want that.
Hey, at least we don't live in the Homestuck universe where it's the insane clown posse. Oh, the door's
never
open. We
heard-
gotta go. Oh, the
I've
auto
never
greeters are
heard-
here.
I've never heard insane clown posse music. I guess I would prefer the maybe them because maybe I would like their music, but I know I don't like 100 gigs music. So you know, maybe I would have to take the chance.
But what about like the you know, the devil that you know and stuff and all that good stuff?
I don't know. I don't think they're the devil you know at all.
I don't know any devils.
You know, and who knows? Maybe you can take the chance that the devil you don't know is better.
Well, that's the idea. It's like you shouldn't because you don't know. At least you know what you're getting with the devil that you do know. I'm not saying that it's not literally a philosophy that you should follow, but it's like what people usually
No.
do, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I'll vote for the same president again because at least I know what this one does. I don't know what the other one's gonna do.
I like to take chances, so.
That's right. I love the chaos. 4th floor, tools, guns, keys to super greeter devices. Greeter apparatuses. Thank you.
No, we need weapons, Zoe. These things are trying to kill us.
Okay, but if we have the ultimate greeting device apparatus, we might be able to get through to them, you know? That's all I'm saying.
I see. Your naivety is remarkable.
Is it endearing? Oh, okay.
Solid 3 out of 10. No, sorry. I didn't mean to say 3, I meant to say 7, but for some reason I said 3. I think I did automatic maths in my mind. No.
I just remembered that Homestuck 2 fucking updated yesterday. I haven't even read like they had like a big update like at some point last year, and I just did not read it. I just don't care.
Yeah. That's the sort of feeling I got from a lot of Homestuck fans. I know is that at this point they just don't care. Like it's been done. It's been over.
I'm happy with what we got, and I don't need more. Thanks.
Like the opinion of everyone has been that Homestuck 2 already had a bad reputation. They don't need it to get worse.
Yep. It's like Geek, you know, cut your losses.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's just like Yeek. Can you believe there's more Yeek content coming out? They're making an expansion to Yeek.
It's so stupid.
It is. Fuck.
Oh, fuck. Come on, door, fucking open. We gotta get out of here.
Yeeking out right now.
Oh, the door. Okay, I gotta get away.
Sometimes you just move on instead of trying to make a dead horse live. It's true.
Right. Oh.
Although in the case
you're
of
here.
Yeek, the horse isn't. Yes, I am here. In the case of Yeek, the horse isn't just dead; it has decayed. It is a skeleton at this point.
It was already like a fucked up, filled homunculus of a horse
Yeah.
from the start. Oh my god, the bad balloons, they're turning our beautiful greeting committee headquarters, I mean mothership, into some sort of twisted caricature of its former self.
Oh no!
We have to stop them. Oh, that's you.
Please open this door. Please open this fucking door. For God.
Oh my god,
They're
joyful spot.
flooding in from the door. I hate
Okay, go,
this
go, go,
spot.
go.
Good. Over there.
Whoa, that big thing.
That big glowy thing. Run.
Go, go, go. It must be the ultimate
that guy's a
creature
sniper
apparatus.
rifle. Fuck.
Fuck.
Look at the heart rate.
Oh god.
That guy's gonna fuck.
Oh, I'm taking
fuck.
damage.
Yeah, me too. I'm getting there.
I might
there.
die.
there.
Oh, we did it. Okay. All right. Go.
I managed to get there. I had 1 health, a sliver of health.
Oh my god. I think I have 2 or 3.
They got smilers.
I have smilers. I'm putting long range smiles in little people's faces.
Putting smiles right between people's eyes.
Now retrieve the index.
All right, Mr. Chief, you better not fuck this up in the cutscene.
God, I hate this guy so much.
I hate him. Taking all the glory and all the cutscenes and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, got a little thing. Oh, okay.
Protocol requires that I take possession of the index for transport.
We would have kept hold of that. We would have better grip.
Yeah, we would.
The index must not fall.
I would have punched Joyful Spark if he tried to take it from us.
Activate the index.
It's like, no, it's mine.
I feel like I'd already have punched him, to be honest. He just kind of annoys me.
A little bit. I mean, he's just in charge of like developing the greeting apparatuses, not using them, I guess. So he doesn't have to be nice.
No, it's the guy from Fortnite.
Oh my god, yeah.
I like the start of this cutscene, which implies that that Joyful Spark has just been monologuing to
The
Chief
entire time during the teleportation, yeah.
Fucking info dumping.
The last stream fucked up my brain permanently. Every piece of knowledge I'd had about the Halo series has been overwritten with new data like an old save file. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Thank you.
As the reunification of the index with the core. That final step is reserved for you, Reclaimer.
All right, let's boot up this
boogie.
Let's boot this boogie. Let's boot up this super greeter apparatus and greet everyone on the Halo.
Oh, really?
Oh my God! You're not purple anymore.
She's green now. No,
Oh,
there we
shit.
go.
What?
We're watching you totally.
She's activated her RPG.
to slit our throats.
Hold on now. He's a
What?
friend.
Yeah, as a friend.
I didn't realize. He's your pal, is he? Your chum?
Yeah.
You have any idea what that bastard almost made you do?
Greet everyone.
Yes, Activate
She's being
Halo
very
defenses
aggressive about
and
this.
Destroy the flood.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, we were gonna greet all the flood. Like, why? Could you just like be nice and explain it to us calmly?
A construct in the core? That is absolutely unacceptable.
Sod off.
Damn, that's so rude.
I shall purge you at once.
Seriously.
Sure, that's a good idea.
Whoa, she just.
How dare you?
She has powers.
Do
She's
what?
magic powers.
I have
Yeah,
the
like that was like a
index.
physical
Just
object, right?
float and sputter.
So she's a witch.
What the hell? Cool.
Cool.
The flood is spreading.
Yo,
If we
techno
activate
witch,
Halo's
let's
defenses,
go.
We can wipe them out.
You have no idea how
Just
this
say
ring
fuck
works,
go.
do you?
Why?
Why
Sod
the
off is
Forerunners
perfectly
built
fine
it?
thing to say.
Halo doesn't kill Flood. It kills their food.
It says hello to
Humans,
everyone.
Covenant, whatever.
That's good.
You're all equally edible. The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death. And that's exactly what Halo is designed to do. Wipe the galaxy clean of all sentient life. You don't
It
believe
says
me?
hello too
Ask
hard.
him.
Too hard.
It doesn't have a safety function. Oh
Like
no!
Guns.
Technically, this installation's pulse has a maximum effective radius of 25,000 light years.
That's
But
terrible.
once the others follow suit, this galaxy will be quite devoid of life. Or at least any life with sufficient biomass to sustain the flood.
Wow.
Joyful Spark has it decided that the ultimate way to say hello
We have
is
followed
to
our
say
way to take
goodbye.
the procedure to the lab.
No.
Oh
As we
no!
manage this crisis,
So why is everyone interact with evil?
why would you hesitate
I
to
don't
do what you've
know.
already done?
Are they?
We need to
I mean,
go.
Cortana
Right
seems kinda mean.
now.
Last time
Yeah.
you free,
Like she's right apparently, but she didn't have to be so rude about it.
having had
I know,
considerable
right?
time to ponder your query, my answer has not changed.
We are,
We must activate the ring.
maybe we should stop saying hello to so many people instead start thinking about who we're saying hello to.
Oh my
Still,
god,
I must have the index.
maybe.
Give your construct to
But
me, or I will
surely the Earth and
take
Greeting
a
Committee hasn't done anything wrong.
That's not.
That's probably true. I'm sure they're
photo.
fine.
Yeah.
Save his head.
But you're gonna thought she was supposed to be purple. Yeah, me too. She used to be Orpal.
Purple, purple. Oh no,
Oh, God.
guns!
Oh no, the auto
Oh, they give me a
greeters.
shotgun. Hell yeah!
Oh my god.
Finally, the first level to start me off with a useful weapon. Let's get the
Joyful
fuck
Spark
out
is
of here.
fucked, dude. This shit's fucked.
We got a delta out of here as soon as we can.
God, we're gonna get zeroed if we stay here.
That's so true.
The Covenant.
Oh, the Covenant.
Maybe we can reason with them.
We have to stop him. We have to destroy
No.
Halo.
Oh, no, they're too ingrained in their greeting
my
ways.
fucking god!
Next course of action is
What killed me?
Explosion. I think it was one of the auto greeters that fell on you.
and we'll cut through a
They
number
fell
of
on me.
systems.
I think so, and then it blew up.
Trigger a detonation on a large
That's fucked
Shit!
up.
Oh my god. They're too caught up in the fun greeting meeting that we're all having together on the Halo.
Gone mad from lack of greed.
battle map. See if I can locate Halo Bottom's crash zone.
Is this what happened? No. I don't think they went mad from lack of greeting. I think they went mad from too much greeting. Is this what it is? Is this what it does?
I bet you picked up my shotgun, didn't you?
I don't think I. Oh yeah, I probably did.
Oh no, wait, there it is. We're all
Okay,
the way over
good.
here. There you go. It blew my corpse a long way. Sorry, my sleeping body.
You were taking a nap.
Oh
Well, you died in an explosion, so I think it just kills you.
yeah, I think that just killed me. Yeah. Come on, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, the genuine unironic joy I just felt upon seeing the Covenant. I was like, oh, thank God.
Thank God.
Finally, the Covenant again. But they've
I love
gone
these silly.
these little shields.
Yeah, I love these silly, like, just why they set them up here? Like, they just dropped them, like, they didn't even know there's an enemy in there. They're just like, no, shield. Wait, if this door went to the entrance the entire time, why didn't we just go this way?
We didn't know.
I guess not.
Haven't located the crash
God, this
zone
is
yet.
fucked,
Need
dude.
to buy some time.
I did
So
put my
fucked. We got-
safety back on all my safety apparatuses. Also, this is a special shotgun that
so I should probably do that myself.
beamed.
One sec.
Primary fire.
Yeah, that got beamed to us, and it is been reverse engineered to include a safety feature, so we can greet people with it now.
Oh, that's useful.
Uh-huh.
Are enormous. I can't even begin to calculate the pulse's range.
Wait, where are we
If you
going?
damage or destroy
Oh, we're
the
gonna go there?
Apparatus,
Okay.
the monitor will need to
To the
repair
red, I
before
guess.
Halo
I
can
think we need to
continue.
find a banshee.
I killed myself. I mean, I greeted myself.
We need to move in and
No, that was again an explosion.
No, that was a greeting orb that I threw.
Okay, I think I accidentally picked up your shotgun for ammo, I'm afraid.
Fuck, dude.
Your body literally flew into me. I had no choice.
Ah, fair enough.
Okay, how do we get over there?
We have to go up. I
Do we
think.
have to go up?
I
Well, yeah,
assume
but
so.
I think there's... yeah, there's banshees on the ground that we need to take.
Oh, okay. This is a ballistic greeting.
Do you have a name for the banshees? Are they flying hellos or whatever? I don't fucking know.
No, the vehicles are just called. They're just their actual names.
Okay. The vehicles are just cars.
Funny cars.
Funny cars. My funny car. Whenever I play
Me when I'm
War
watching the
Thunder,
Disney movie. Funny cars.
Whenever I play War Thunder, I just call my tanks funny cars, and it drives one of my friends nuts. They're like, they're tanks. Why are you calling them funny cars? I'm like, hee hee.
Me and my funny car shooting you.
That's what I'm like. And they're like, stop. Stop. Like my friends are really big, like fucking military tank nerd, and it's like, no, this kind of tank, like funny car. Let's go.
Oh my god, I might blow up.
Oh no.
No,
don't
we're
blow.
good.
Oh fuck,
we
that's a tank. I'm
Oh,
getting in a
fuck.
banshee. You're on your
It's.
own.
Oh my god. God, I wish you could
Off with the
fucking run in
banshee,
this
quick.
game. I'm trying, dude. I'm trying.
I've taken off.
Okay, go, go, go.
You gotta get up there, dude.
How do you control these?
I
I'm
don't
doing
know.
it. I think I'm doing it. Okay, we gotta go. We gotta go. I might have said this before. The other joy and surprise I experienced when I first saw and used a needler in a game remains unparalleled to any other gaming experience. Is such a uniquely iconic weapon. I fucking love the needler so much. It's so good. It's definitely like one of my favorite guns in gaming. Oh, sorry, bud.
You nearly splattered me.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm just so excited to greet you, you know?
Didn't. Yeah. No,
I
no,
love
yeah,
the
that's
smiler. The smiler is my favorite weapon, yeah. I love when it does a smile explosion.
I love the second half of the game where we just go through the same areas again.
Yeah, but backwards and gunning instead of stealthing.
Mm-hmm. It was stealthing the first time.
Just a little. Okay. I'm gonna do it.
Okay,
Wait.
I trust you.
Okay, whatever, I'm just gonna go. I did it!
Oh, that drained my shields. That's how they get away with it. They're being too. It drains my shields as well. Oh fuck! I'm
shit.
dying to lasers.
I have literally 1 HP.
Fuck.
God. Man, don't you just fucking hate it when you make an AI and you're like, you have to solve this problem, and the AI is like, okay, I will use computer thoughts for this, and goes like, well, they like every single time they're just like, well, the ideal solution is kill everyone.
I know, right?
Every
It's
single
like
time.
we shouldn't trust AI.
Oh man, the best way to greet everyone is to kill them, because then it's the last greeting of their life, because you only have to do it once.
So
Like,
true.
just fucking no, dude.
Breaking stuff to look tough. Let's go.
Fucking hell yeah, let's go.
located in the adjacent canyon. Move out and I'll mark the target with the nav pin.
Okay, where are we going? Right down there.
Ah, okay. Ba-da-bow, ba-da-da-dow, da-da-da.
I'm not breaking stuff to look tough. I'm breaking stuff because I am tough.
I'm breaking stuff because it's in my way to say hi to people. Hi.
Oh. Are you okay?
I died.
No, sorry, you fell asleep.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I took a nap. You're right. You're so right.
Look, you decided to keep this big guy as a
You're right. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. Did you know the lore of this game that we're playing?
Yeah, no. I am very knowledgeable in the Hello lore.
God, I can't fucking wait for Hello 2. You're gonna wait for Hello as well.
Hello as well.
Yeah, Hello 2, Hello as well, you know?
Hello again.
Hello again. Hello again.
Hello again.
Give me my fucking smiler,
Send my
bitch.
condolences to your kangaroo wife. You're right, bro.
Okay, yeah, we're good. Hello, invading fish. Welcome.
It's very funny to me because, like, oh fuck, it's these guys. It's
Oh,
these
fuck,
guys.
it's the bad
Okay,
balloons.
Safety off.
Safety off, safety off. Okay, safety on, safety on. Hold on. We're getting a firmware update. Our guns, our greeting apparatuses now detect what we're aiming at and turn the safety on and off appropriately. So we don't have to do it
anymore. You still only have 1 health, sorry, because there's a health pack.
I have 3. Oh god, there's a golden greeter here.
You should probably come and get this health pack.
I cannot. Okay, now I can, but I don't need it anymore.
Did you get ultra greeted?
I got ultra greeted, dude. Where's my stuff that I had? Ah, there we go. Got it.
Okay, good. You didn't just smash their window, did you?
I did, yeah.
That's not very greedy of you, Zoe.
Well, it's not. Listen, it's built by the Forerunners, and they've been able to build an AI that wants to kill everyone by greeting them really hard. So.
So you think it's okay to cause vandalism?
Yeah, that's not related to anything, any of our values.
Okay, sure. Sure. We're the greeting committee voice. We believe in smashing through people's windows.
Yeah, because sometimes in order to get to someone to greet them, you know?
I gotta be honest, the idea of forcefully greeting someone by smashing their windows is something so almost sinister, I think.
Oh no, you're right. I'm no better than Joyful Spark. This is
true. Oh fuck! No, don't kill me.
Oh god, it's the golden greeter. Oh!
Who threw that grenade? Was that you?
No, it was not me.
It was not you? Okay. I'll believe it.
Punching through someone's window to tell them you're happy to see them, exactly.
Nice to see you! Get out of my house! Get out of my house!
Okay, bye-bye! Throw a grenade. You threw 50 grenades, it seems.
Apparently so.
Okay, come on. Oh, fuck.
Oh, fuck.
The bad balloons are jumping over here. Of course they can do that because they're balloons, so they're not affected by gravity as much.
The bad baboons are jumping over here. You said, sorry, the small ones are bad balloons, these are the bad baboons?
Of course, when they evolve, yeah.
Yeah.
I can decide.
Sorry.
It's okay. We gotta go.
There's a guy behind you.
I know, yeah, it's okay.
I will never do it to you again, I swear.
I appreciate it. Ah, fuck, there's more bad baboons here. I prefer to just call them all bad balloons, just to keep it consistent.
Fine.
Like, within their ranks, they can be baboons and such, but like, collective title is bad baboons. Balloons.
Oh god, that guy's got a shotgun. I'm going to fucking die, Zoe.
No, we're gonna fucking live.
If you see any health, please notify me at once.
I will do so.
Please notify me via corporate memo.
I think I'll just use my voice. It's all the same to you.
Okay, that's fine. It's not.
No, Suchi.
But okay.
Hello, Melody. How you doing?
Hello, Melody. How you doing?
Man, yeah, we're on Halo right now, which is what you're referring to because the game is called Hello.
Oh, that guy had a rocket launcher. I'm so bad at fucking...
I got a rocket launcher now.
Are you sure you want that?
Well, it only has like 3 bullets, so maybe not.
Yeah, the problem with this game is I never found the rocket launcher particularly handy because, like, It's you're either low on ammo or you're in confined spaces. It's like, okay, well, like it gives you plenty of chances to use it, but it's like, okay, this isn't useful for this area at all in any way.
It's mostly useful when you're shooting like a big vehicle or something.
Yeah. Health kit.
Oh,
How's
get
your
it,
health
get it.
looking?
Oh, fine. Ish.
Okay, fair enough. That's better. I'm now fully better.
Good, good. Let's go, let's go. Oh, fuck.
There's a lot of
Oh,
guys.
my health is no longer good.
Really? That's all it took?
Yep.
Just a few balloons?
They're bad, dude.
Okay, I remember this bridge. This one's full of rocket launcher guys.
Oh, God.
This is the one that got me proper angry.
There's two of us now. We can do it.
It's true.
Like in Wolfwalkers.
Like in Wolfwalkers.
Right?
Like in Wolfwalkers, those favorites, the movie about wolves.
Yeah. It
I'm
is.
trying to think of other stories about wolves. Do you remember Alpha and Omega?
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, I never watched it, but
I never watched it either. It's art style always looked kind of strange to me.
okay,
But
I
apparently they
got a
did,
rocket
like,
launcher
4
now
of
because I
those
need another
movies.
weapon. Yeah, they made a bunch of them for some reason.
Yeah, and I've never met anyone who's watched one of them.
Mm-mm. Oh, I was in the air for a second.
Huh.
Damn. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Man, you know, I know we're on opposite sides, but we're all greeters, you know, like... what the fuck?
I have to check if he's alive or not.
Fair enough. Hey, buddy.
Yo, his blood's purple. Look at
Buddy,
that.
you good?
That's a really nice shade of purple. I just keep
That's
beating him
nice.
up.
Yo, we can use this as paint, dude.
Yeah. I was gonna say the bad guys, so I couldn't remember the name. I was gonna say the Fall
The
Guys.
Fall Guys! Was this some Christian movie that really should have been an Omega-verse fig? What?
Oh,
Fuck, what the hell? What happened?
fuck.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
They exploded.
They exploded
They
extremely.
exploded into the room.
Ow. Oh, my health's not good.
Stop-
If you see a health kit, let me know.
Okay, you gotta stop running up to those things.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I
Yep.
should.
Oh fuck, that guy's got shotgun. Oh fuck. You fucking kidding me? Okay, what happened there is I tried to throw a grenade at him, right?
No, that's not what happened. That's not what
No,
happened.
isn't it?
No, what happened
then?
was that I saw the guy coming and you were like, oh shit, and like you backed off and I was like, all right, perfect time to use a rocket launcher, and then you stopped backing off and you went back.
Oh, I thought, because I hit my grenade button, I thought what happened was that I threw my grenade and he shot out of the air with his shotgun.
No, I shot a
Because I
rocket
hit the
directly
grenade
at
button
you.
as soon as... Okay, well... And so that's entirely your fault.
No, it's your fault for not not being a coward. Yeah.
I like how we both said the same thing. We really do share the same fucking brain cells.
Sometimes we do.
Dear. Anyway, you should probably warn me before you use that thing near me.
Yeah. Probably. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Check those corners.
It's quiet.
Oh, an elevator. Nice.
Oh, nice. I love those. Take opportunity to reload my rocket launcher.
Oh fuck! Don't! Oh, I fell off.
You fell off?
I didn't even know you could. Yeah, I didn't even know you could fall off.
Shit. Oh god, it's looking up and seeing while crawling down. That's kind of scary. Go.
I don't even know where there was a thing that could happen.
Okay, come on.
Like I just backed up a little bit, and apparently you can just fall off the edge there.
Yeah. I'm sure speedrunners do it.
I feel like they should put a banister there just so you can't fall off.
Yeah, these forerunners aren't very. They don't have a lot of
Oh,
safety.
shit compliant. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have safety measures on their ultimate greeting apparatus.
Do you call them banisters in Denmark? Not Denmark, sorry, the Netherlands.
Denmark.
I was thinking of Denmark earlier because for some reason the news decided to give me like. Apparently the Queen of Denmark has
Careful.
stepped down or something.
Yeah, that's all I heard.
And Yeah, and for some reason, the news decided to like show me a bunch of it, and so I took a screenshot of it and sent to Sven and said, "Damn, they ran out British Queens to spam me about."
Do we call them banisters? No, we call them Loningen.
What?
Loningen, and it's plural, so it's loaning for one.
You're really learning.
Because you're loan on them, which is Dutch for lean.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. The Forerunners don't have a lot of 4-4. They don't.
Really didn't. Well, they were called the Forerunners, not the Forethinkers, I suppose.
Oh, this goes back to the beginning.
I think we're supposed to go this way? Question mark?
I don't know.
Hey,
I'm
bud.
coming. I love the fucking I love the plasma pistol melee attack because it's just Master Chief just moves the pistol away and punches whoever's in front of him.
Damn, I should be doing that.
You should be.
Plasma pistol,
Yeah, let me kill
only
you so
melee
you can have
playthrow.
one.
Let's take care of them.
A ghost. Oh god, a grenade.
Oh,
Careful,
fuck, a banshee.
careful.
Oh no. Oh fuck!
Why did you do that?
I didn't mean to. I did not mean to.
What the hell?
I'm suddenly trying to respawn you. There you go. There you go.
What the fuck, dude?
I didn't mean to. I was just having fun swinging my melee because he punches.
Oh
I didn't mean to. I'm
God.
sorry.
Fucked up that you would do that to me.
Next bull stand.
I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry.
Oh my god. I'm gonna wait until the Banshee's coming towards us. And then blow it up.
Fair enough.
Got it.
Nice. Good shot.
Thank you. Enough for the scorpion thing. Which is not called the scorpion, but I forgot what the Covenant breeder name for it is.
The Wraith.
I missed, that's one. Oh god, there's a
How
person
did
in
you
the thing.
miss it? It's so slow.
It was strafing. The rocket also is slower than I died.
Okay. I'm gonna go down here because I think there's a from over there's a rocket launcher down here. There's health at least.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, here we go. There's a rocket launcher in here. I'm gonna take it and try and get them.
Sure. Also, for those curious, both of our pronouns are she, her.
That's true. They put the Master Chief in the sword.
Well, the Master Chief doesn't die until the moment he hits the ground based on how much he swings his damn arms around.
Waves
It's
at you.
funny.
Oh my god, same pronouns.
Ah, yeah.
Look, I've just defeated the Wraith.
Great job.
They have faced my Wraith.
Me. I wish we'd take the Wraith, but you can't. You don't get to pilot that at all in Halo 1.
Or Halo 2 if I remember.
Oh.
No, actually, you do get it one in Halo 2, I think.
Oh.
What a nice area. Oh, fuck.
Careful. Careful.
Why are you telling me to be careful? You're the one in the fucking vehicle.
Because I was trying to stop him midair, but I couldn't do it.
If I know, of course you can't. There's no friction, Zoe.
Yeah, but
That's not how stopping works.
this thing already hovers. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, but you still need friction to move. I mean, to stop.
Who says who?
The laws of physics.
Yeah, so this thing hovers.
It's like in it's like when you're in space, right? Like if you shoot like a bullet in space, it will just keep going forever because there's no friction to slow it down.
Right?
Oh,
But a
fuck,
bullet
they
doesn't.
stuck with
But
one.
a bullet isn't using hover technology.
I mean, true. Okay,
Let's
well,
go.
Just go. Just.
Let's use this this all-terrain greeting vehicle or whatever we called them. I forgot.
I don't know. I just like it because it has wheels and I don't rely on space magic in order to drive it.
I like it, so you can ride it together.
Yeah. I shoot the hors d'oeuvres and you drive.
That's it. I'm gonna make sure not to hit anyone because that actually kills them.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Sorry. Both times that you have
They
driven
jumped in
something
front of
like
in front of the vehicle. Where am I going here?
I don't know, but look out for that Wraith over there.
Yeah, I know.
Both times you have been allowed to drive, you have crashed.
Well, yeah, but you
you've
didn't want
hit
to drive.
someone. It's true, I like using the gun.
That's what I'm saying.
You haven't destroyed the portal.
Oh no, we gotta go back and get a Banshee.
Fly to the location.
Go. Okay.
Woo! You got an achievement. Nice. I got achievement for destroying heavy artillery.
It's true
using
also.
Guns.
No. Gun is a nickname. It means whatever it meant.
It means whatever it meant.
It's
That
an
is true of many
abbreviation.
things. They
Okay,
mean
get-
whatever they mean.
Get the bears. Get the bears.
I'm trying to, but I can't. Can you just hit them with your car?
No, then they'll die. They have to take naps.
There you go.
Great
put them
job.
down.
Oh
Where
no!
are we gonna get Banshees from? What?
I killed that one anyway. I drove over his sleeping body, or he was taking a nap. How are we supposed to? Where? Oh, hey, there they are.
Yeah, they're right over there. What's that Tumblr post when someone's like, "Hey, can you do something?" And then someone's like, "No, but I can hit you with my car."
I said that. That was me. Someone asked me like, do you?
Wait,
do
that
you,
was you? You
yeah,
made that
like
post?
someone was like, well, maybe someone made a similar post, but someone asked me like, do you do art? Or something was like, can you do art for me? And I was like, no, but I'm gonna hit you with my car now.
Nice.
But I'm sure I'm not the only
And
one to
you
make a
would.
post like that.
No.
I would, because I'm terrible at driving.
Have you ever tried driving, like in real life?
I mean, at some point when I was like little, and we were like parking the car at a field where there was no one else, my dad was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, come
Oh
Zoe."
yeah, put you on his lap, and it's like
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can
So
drive.
like that does not count.
Yeah, no. My dad used to do the same thing. And even at that young age, I was like, I hate this. I don't want to ever do this again. And he was like, what? My dad's just fucking like he was like, why won't you do it? Why do you like not find excitement in anything? Like any young boy would be excited to drive his car. It's like, I don't know. I just don't like it. He's very upset that wasn't like other young males.
Yeah, good fuck.
Mhm.
I love the story you told me about him taking you hunting, and you never wanting to do it. It's like, why are we doing it? Why are we like killing the foxes and whatever?
Yeah.
And he said like, well, we have to do it, otherwise they kill the pheasants. And you said, well, you're gonna kill the pheasants anyway.
Yeah, because for context, my dad's a gamekeeper, so he raises the pheasants for people to shoot. Like to come and shoot, so obviously people eat them. But like, it's like, yeah, you eat your king, so why not let the fox have a couple? You know?
Yeah, right.
Like you're just gonna kill them anyway.
It's so funny to me because you're so right.
Yeah. Anyway, you gotta walk into the beams though.
Oh, okay. I see. Careful. Whee! Okay, we can go now.
Did it. The pulse generator over.
Excellent. Let's fucking leave.
Let's Delta out of here.
It's Delta.
I'm just gonna end up saying
Oh, good.
getting killed.
Good.
I'm just gonna end up saying Delta, not even as like a funny cyberpunk reference, just in general.
I mean, it's good lingo. I like it.
It honestly is, yeah. Let's get
fucking
outta
Delta
here.
Outta here.
I'm just gonna keep saying Delta and skedaddle.
Kilometers upspin. Energy reading show.
I'm not sure if I've ever told this story about my dad before, but like when I was young, I was away. I was away at my grandma's for like the weekend. I was staying for the nights, right? And when I go, and as any young autistic person is, I don't like having my stuff. Oh fuck! I got blinded by a rocket
Oh
launcher.
yeah, you did, huh?
Yeah. Like any young autistic person, I didn't like having my stuff fucked with. Like I don't like people being in my room touching my stuff. And I got back from my grandma's, and my dad had like completely redesigned my room, and also like sawed the bottom off my bed to make like a custom-made bunk bed.
What the fuck? We're not
and also
asking you or
really-
anything. Are you shooting me?
Yeah.
No, this is a different Banshee.
I'm not, no. And also, I was really upset with it, and like he was like, "Why aren't you like why don't you want this? If I was a kid, I would be hyped to have this fucking bunk bed. And also really upset I was crying and stuff.
Yeah, dude. Because they just did that without asking.
Yeah, and he finally managed to coax me upstairs to look at it. I was really nervous to respawn me out it because you went too far. Yeah. But I was really nervous to get up there because I didn't trust his building sensibilities. Oh fuck. But yeah, he was like, why wouldn't you get up there? If I was a kid, I'd be right up there and having a great time. And so I got up there and of course slept on it. And that same night, the whole thing collapsed because the only thing holding it was a small bit of plywood.
Oh my god.
And then for the next, I think it was 3 years, my only bed was a mattress on the floor because he couldn't get me a new one.
God, your dad sucks, dude.
My dad does suck.
Oh god, hello. Man, these balloons are fucking bad. I had to say that to make sure that everybody knows we're still in the lore.
Yes, fuck.
Oh god, no. Oh god, no.
Okay. We both died.
I also, ow, oh my god. When I respawn, I got the checkpoint while I was getting out of the bench in midair, which means I will always take damage when we respawn.
Amazing.
Shit. At one point, I'm pretty sure I've told this story on stream before, but I don't know if you know it. And I'm sure there's other people in the chat that haven't yet, but I, like you, did not like when people still don't. I still don't like when people do things with my stuff without asking.
Yeah.
I have a favorite mug, and I do not like it when people just, when they're just making tea and I'm just grab some mugs, and then they don't ask, hey, do you have a preferred mug? Because I feel like any person has a preferred mug, right, in their home.
Yeah, definitely. That seems like a normal thing.
Right? Oh, I got blown up.
It.
Rocket launcher. Oh, fucking Christ, you also died?
Yeah, I also died, yeah.
Fuck. So I was little and I had Lego because I'm me, and also I was a kid, but well-known Lego lover over here. God, I remember being so excited when I saw someone had made custom Halo Lego. Actually, this is so good. Yeah. Anyway, so I had Lego. And I had a lot of custom creations. I had little buildings and vehicles and characters and stuff that I really liked and I was very proud of.
Yeah.
And it was all downstairs in the living room. And then one day, my parents said, okay, Zoe, we are gonna have a friend over. And our friend has kids. And you know these kids because they've been here before. And they are, and I was like, oh yeah, I know them, they're fucking horrible.
Amazing.
They are horrible, evil, destructive, vile children who thrive on destruction and misery.
Okay, yeah.
Because... oh, nice. Because healing kits are here also.
Thank you. I died, so I don't need them. Thank you.
Oh yeah, but I did. Because another time there was a party, a family party, when these kids also showed up, and we had a little hut that my dad built in the backyard that you could go into, and there was a window, and you could go up on top of it. And he said he would add a slide to it, but he didn't. And these kids would just get things from inside the house, just any old things, and get up on that hut and then throw them onto the grass.
What the fuck?
And they would just laugh
That's
maniacally.
Disrespectful.
Yeah, extremely. Just trays and my own umbrella that I had and stuff. Just nothing that broke, but they just threw stuff for fun. And when I say they laughed maniacally, I mean it genuinely. They were like, You know, like
up.
it was fucked up. It was like a brother and a sister, and all the adults were too busy talking about all their adult bullshit to listen to little Zoe being like, "Hey, these kids are like being evil," and like, yeah, go play amongst yourself, lol. You know? And it's like they're throwing your stuff off of the HUD. You know? Oh, golden greeter. Never mind, he's dead. So when I was told that they would be coming over again, I was instantly like, oh fuck no. I was gonna be at school while they were there.
Oh no.
I died.
That's even worse.
It's worse.
Because then you don't know what they're up to.
And so my dad said, do you think you could leave your Lego here because then they'll have something to play with? And I said no.
Not a fucking chance.
Not a goddamn fucking chance. And so for the first time in my life probably, I voluntarily cleaned up all my Lego and put it in my room. And I told my dad, you have to promise me. Like I explained the whole thing to him and he was like, they're probably not that bad. And I said, no, they are. Great. They literally are. Like, you were dismissive then, too, you know? Which is always cool, you know, when adults are like that.
No, definitely.
And I said, you have to, like, I don't care if you believe me. You have to promise me, you know? On not because you believe me, but because this is important to me. I was very clear about that. Because this is so important to me, I want you to promise me that you are not going to let those kids into my room. You are not going to get the Lego from my room because all they will do is just destroy my own things that I built and not build anything of their own. They're not gonna play with the Lego. They're just gonna find joy in ruining what I built. So I need you to promise me that you are not going to let them get my Lego. And my dad was like, yeah, I'll promise. And I was like, no, you have to promise.
Yeah.
I need you to be serious about this. And he was like, yes, okay. Zoe, I promise. I will not let them get to your Lego. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go to school now. So I went to school. I had a day at school. I come home. My Lego is in the living room, and there is nothing built. There is only all my creations destroyed.
Amazing.
And I was like, my dad, what the fuck? Why did you do that? Like, you promised. And I was like, yeah, but otherwise they wouldn't have anything to play with. I don't fucking care. Like,
yeah, you don't give a shit.
You fuck off, Dad. Like, I never forgave him.
No, I don't blame you. That's fucked up. Why don't parents just ever listen?
I know, right?
Like, half the time it just doesn't seem like the cares of the child like matter at all to them. They're just like, oh, I believe this is silly, so I'm ignoring this.
Yeah,
like okay,
this is trivial to
parent,
me, so it's trivial in general, you know? It's fucked up. Oh shit.
Fun?
I intended to ignore you from the start regardless of how much you cared. That is very much what it seemed like, yeah.
Yeah.
My dad has often been like that, honestly, that like he... Fucking Christ! Okay, this dude just turned around and had a rocket launcher, was like, oh, cool, and then he instantly blows up about that.
Yes, it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah. Because like they don't care if they get blown up in the process. Yeah. They can't. But my dad is I feel like that's a pretty dad-like attitude, like cis-het dad kind of attitude, where it's like...
Yeah, they just, like, they just do what they want and they don't care if their child likes it or not.
Well, that, but just in general, like, if they... If they do something wrong, they're not really gonna acknowledge that they did something wrong and just sort of try to laugh it off and think that that'll make everything right again.
Yeah, no, yeah. Definitely.
You know?
Oh,
like
fuck.
my dad's not like a bad person or anything, but he is a dad.
Yeah, no. Well, that's often the case. Like, often, like, parents aren't bad people. They're just bad parents.
They're just bad parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for the most part I still have good parents, but you know, they have these quirks. Parents. They have these little quirks.
I don't know.
But you know, they're very supportive of who I am and what I do and stuff, so.
That's good. I've been told that by people who are much younger than me, that millennial parents are in general much better than our parents, like because they've like retained what it was like to grow up with parents.
Yeah, and they are not brought up in a society where the parents not giving a shit about the kids is expected.
Yeah.
I'm very, very glad about that.
Do you ever like to be a parent, Zoe?
I am. I've got Shion, you know.
Yeah, of course. My mistake. How could I forget your beloved daughter?
My beloved daughter Shion, and also Roxas, of course, and also Uzi from Murder Drones, and also Ina from Ina, and also another one that I keep forgetting. I forgot.
You forgot.
Jokes aside, or I mean very real things aside, in a situation where I was not an actual mother, which I am, of course, I think I would enjoy aspects of being a mom. But I think in general I don't think I'm cut out for it.
That's fair enough. I feel like in my twilight years I might consider maybe fostering a child.
Oh yeah, it would definitely be an option or something for me.
Yeah. Like I
you have a very girly jump. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Wait, okay, wait. You were doing something like you were doing like the little like anime jump pose where like your knees were together and then your feet were pivoted in opposite directions. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think in my twilight years I might foster a child. I think I have a lot to tell a child.
That's for sure. Also, just some trans girl, Sparky, Fluffies, and Taringerine. Thank you for the eggs. Oh, you have started fighting. Oh god, yeah, I have started
came
fighting.
up behind us.
Oh god.
Yeah. Apparently, just standing there was a bad idea. Oh fuck, there's one right next to me.
Oh shit. Okay, we gotta go, dude.
We got a delta.
We got a fucking delta. I'll get the sippy and the stretchy later. No, being a parent seems nice.
It seems like it would be nice, yeah.
Yeah. It would just be nice to have a family is all I think.
Yeah.
I mean, like a form of family.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I'm so fucking bad. Okay, come on. Okay, there we go. That's a hit. That's it on the first wave. And another on the second. Did it explode?
Oh god fucking damn it, there's like literally 4 things of rocket launchers.
Oh my god. Oh, fucking missed. Shit.
Can't believe there's 2 fucking roofs.
Okay, god. No, there's only one now. But my health is very low. Oh, there's an invisible guy. A surprise greeter.
A surprise greeter?
Yeah, that's what they were called. Shit. Why am I here? Why did I run into battle? This is so stupid.
I don't know, why did you run into battle?
I don't know, I wanted to shoot him, and if I'm closer, it's easier to hit. He's using a smiler on me, no!
He's using a smiler on me. We'll get through this, it's fine.
We'll get through this together. This part fucking sucks, though.
It really does.
I ran into battle.
The second half of Hello is the combat evolved is not good.
Greeting evolved, you mean?
Yeah, greeting evolved. I know this feels like some fucking combat, dude.
Honestly, yeah. None of this is good, Jody. That's why it's called combat.
No, that's why it's called combat.
Oh shit.
None of this is good. That's why they call it customer service. Why would Ray play them?
Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god.
You okay?
Well, I guess we ran into battle.
Was it you?
It was me.
Okay, both wraiths are down. Both wraiths are down.
Nice. Okay, there's also a golden greeter. Watch out for that one.
God fucking damn it.
Damn it. Okay, fuck.
Are you alive? No, you're not. Okay.
Greet
Okay,
and
maybe we
wave
should just
until
run
it
for
is
the
done.
banshees and leave.
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest that.
Yeah, maybe we should just sprint for it and kill what we can. Because once we're in the air, like, not a lot can do much to us, so.
Well, as long as we weave to avoid the
Yeah.
those things. The race.
It's fine, I don't think they have good aim.
Go.
Yeah, just take a couple of pot
Nice.
shots of them.
Nice. Okay, that's one.
Nice, that's one down. Yeah, run the fuck away, bitches.
Go. This is the strat. This is the method. Careful for the
I'll get
space.
in the far one, you get in the close one.
You got it. Go.
I'm taking off.
I'm taking off also.
My banshee has 1 health. How's yours doing?
5. God. 1. Oh my god. Shit, dude.
This game's fucking hard.
Yeah, but now we get to enjoy a nice leisurely flight.
It's true, it's true.
Man, remember when this game was
never
just
mind,
about
we're
saying hi to
landing.
people? It's so much nicer.
Oh god.
Oh god,
come on.
the auto greeters.
They fucking greeted me good.
Oh my god. You know, it's interesting if you think about it.
Yeah,
Greed is only one word away from grieve.
so true. And greed.
And greed as well. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Get my bearings. And do an egg.
Welcome to die.
Diaga, thank you very much for your egg.
I'm gonna go out and see if I can find my stuff.
Sure. We also have to take a sippy and stretchy.
Okay. No, my stuff is out here. There's just a bunch of lasers. Okay, we'll take my sippy. Delicious.
Okay.
Fucking hate walls.
Impeding us from greeting people.
Rawr.
Let's go.
Punches you. Oh, cool. It's the same corridor again.
Well, yeah, we got a. Oh, auto greeters. Whoa, they got shield technology. They got
Yo,
anti-greeting
the shi-
technology. What the fuck, dude?
Anti-greeting technology.
Man, Joyful Spark's really gone off the fucking deep end. If like
really
he's
has.
refusing greetings now. I think we gotta kill him. Wait, no, you should say it.
Say what?
What I just said.
We should kill him?
Damn.
I think we're gonna have to kill this guy, Zoe.
Damn.
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 Damn. It's fine, we got the joke there in the end. Don't worry
Yeah,
about
we
it.
got it. We got it. It's all good.
Target neutralized. Let's get out of here.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Oh,
Hello, Mr. Chief.
Let's
Hello,
find a
Mrs.
ride and get to the captain.
No, that'll take too long.
it's fun to ride.
There's a
I
teleport
love how the shadows
runs
just
around
text
the
onto his
room.
helmet.
That's how the monitor moves about so quickly.
It's very
I learned
good.
how to tap into the grid when I was in the control center. Unfortunately, each jump requires a rather consequential expenditure of energy.
Something tells me I'm not gonna like this.
But I'm pretty sure I can pull it from your suit without permanently damaging it.
Doesn't make any sense because he's in front of like a bright light source, but it's still just a shadow there.
I know. But I like it.
Mr. Chief, do you mind telling me what you're doing in that cutscene? Sir.
Sir, nothing of worth.
The network is absolute chaos.
Only the
From what I
master
understand,
chefs do anything of worth.
Their leadership ordered
master
all ships
chefs.
to abandon
Yeah, that's
Halo
us.
when they found the flood, but they were
I
too
know.
late.
I know. I know.
The flood overwhelmed this cruiser.
I wish I wasn't, but I know.
Terrified the flood would repair the ship and use it
I
to
wish it
escape
wasn't
the flood.
us.
They've sent in a strike team to neutralize
Just
the
like in
flood
Lord of the
and
Rings,
prepare
you
the
know?
ship for immediate departure.
Yeah.
got a good lock on Captain Key's CNI transponder signal.
We are the
He's
bearer
alive.
of the
The
curse.
implants are intact. There's some interference from the cruiser's damaged reactor. I'll bring us in as close as I can.
Oh, Captain Keys. He's relevant. He's the greatest greeter of us all, remember that?
Oh, I see. The coordinate data needs to be... Right. Sorry.
Such a dumb scene.
This
This game has this game has some really like silly moments, like between all the serious storytelling and just sometimes Master Chief appears upside down.
Yeah, I like it. I read it. Oh. Oh no, the bed balloons are here too. Oh,
no.
man, I bet.
That one stood up again.
Oh fuck. That's you.
Ow, you shot me.
I bet the I bet the captain is like is getting these guys good though.
Yeah, he's gonna be so happy to see us.
Well, yeah, but the captain is the greatest greeter of all time. Remember? That's why he's the captain of
true.
the greeter committee. Oh shit! I'm gonna blow up. Get away from me. Jesus fucking
Damn,
Christ!
you blew everything up.
Yeah.
Oh, a shotgun, thank you.
Okay. Yes, a smiler.
Smile.
Yeah, a smiler. It spreads smiles.
Oh, look out, there's a hole in the
Caused
floor.
by some kind of explosive.
Yep.
Tore through the ship's hull.
Oh, no.
I love how out of context
Okay.
of the screaming specific, you did just say the captain was the greatest killer. No, I said greeter. He's the greatest greeter.
Eater.
Well, I'm sure he does that too, because he's just so amazing, you know.
Yeah.
These bad
God, I love
balloons
Captain
could never
Keys.
get him.
He's the best guy.
He's the best guy.
He's the
I
best
can't wait to be
guy.
reunited with him, and then we
Me
can.
neither.
I mean, you know, the ultimate greeting apparatus didn't work out because of the lack of safety, but
Yeah.
I'm sure Captain Keys has something as an idea, you know.
Maybe he can use that award-winning smile of his to convince everyone to step down.
Right? He'll be able to reason with the balloons.
Exactly. Award-winning smile. Voted best smile of the month by Greeting Magazine. Just got a flash of
Greetology
pearly
Monthly.
lights, you know? Greetology Monthly. That's the scientific name for greeting.
Yep.
The research of greeting. Oh, what the fuck?
I
You
just-
hit me in the back.
I didn't try to. I wanted to melee a bed balloon.
But you did. What he's saying is you didn't try to, but you did.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you ran in at me?
I didn't run at you.
Some
that's your
oddball.
friend.
Hello.
In-
Thank you very much for following.
In order for that to have happened, I necessarily have to be up in front of you and facing away from you, thus meaning I was not running at you.
Listen, don't worry about it. Ow. God, these bed balloons are crazy. We gotta keep moving.
They really are.
Was there a shotgun around here that
So
I
you
really
sure-
like?
Are you sure you're not feeling guilt for for those people you hit with your car still?
A little bit, yeah. I did kill those people. It's not great.
Is that why
it is
you're
a bit of
taking it out
a.
on me?
It is a bit of a guilty spark. I'm not gonna lie.
How many guilty sparks are there?
This one, of course, the ship's gravity then.
Just the one, I think.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with joyful spark, of course.
Go fucking down. There's a lot
God.
of damage.
There's a health kit up ahead, so
Crash did more damage
Thank you, I
than
got
we
it.
suspected.
Do you want this sniper rifle?
fuck no.
Okay, fair enough.
This was rate of significance. The ship's reactors.
Don't
Okay,
like sniper
grenades.
rifles. Oh god, bears.
I like how he said look out and frame grenades and you just run straight towards the location of the places
Sorry,
where
I
the
don't have
grenades
ears.
are. Or eyes.
Yeah. Arterial red, thank you very much for the egg.
Hi, Tyrell, how you doing? Oh god, I don't have a grenade, so... I'm guessing you're dead.
Oh yeah, I
Given the fact I
died.
can't see you. Okay. I'm going in.
This is RTS Halo. This is RTS Hello. This is the original, yeah. It is kind of cute also that like Hello was originally going to be an RTS game, but then they shifted away from that and then they ended up making Hello Wars anyway.
Yeah.
Hello, Maznov. Hi.
Can't believe I took all those guys
Welcome,
on.
welcome. Yeah, you were so good.
I was like, I was like not really even trying. I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna die here.
Maybe if you don't have me, the loose cannon around, things go better.
That's true. When I don't have someone to stab me in the back.
That's not what happened. I
Was
punched you in the
literally
back.
what happened? Okay.
No, it wasn't a stab.
This is just like the evil Sans instant all over again.
Yay, no context for that.
No one's gonna ever get context for that. I'm just gonna start referring to the evil Sans instant, never explain to anyone what it means. Can you help him have ammo? Fuck.
Nope, I died.
Okay, you need to tell me if you're dead.
You were talking. I
Okay.
didn't want to interrupt.
No, please interrupt to give me mission status updates.
I'll try. Can I
I
just get
thought
this?
you
Thank
just ran ahead. No, I was
I
like,
did,
come
and then I
back.
died.
Okay, that explains why you died.
Yeah. Holy shit, mini explosion. I'm running ahead, just so you know.
Okay. Please stop. Fuck.
I blew up, just so
I'm
you
dead
know.
again? For fuck's sake. Stop running ahead.
It just
I'm
kinda
asking
happens.
mostly. I mean, it just kind of happens. You just gotta stop moving. I'm getting this turret.
It's just how I function, I guess. It's like without thinking about it, I'm just gonna go over here now.
You're just a loose cannon.
I'm just a loose fucking cannon. There's so much soup here to enjoy, yeah.
So much soup.
Do you think that the Covenant made all this soup to give to people as a nice greeting gift?
I don't. I think this is not even soup. I think this is like water. I think this is the ocean, sorry.
This is not the ocean. This is way too small for an ocean.
You don't
just
know
said
how
something
big an
very
ocean is
silly.
on other planets.
Well then, okay. Yeah, I guess. But no, but ocean is like, our definition of an ocean doesn't apply here.
I can't go for the alien definition of ocean.
Well, they might, it's not called an ocean for them, is it?
What's it called then?
I don't know, I don't speak alien language.
Well, I do, so fuck you.
Okay, what's it called in their language then, huh?
It's ocean. It just so happens they use the same word.
Oh, how convenient and nice. I accept this now.
Yeah. You know, so language is meant to be shared, so.
Oh,
Like,
you're
this
right.
This
That
is the
is,
whole purpose.
you know, that is true. That is something they taught us at the end when it's a greeting college, yeah,
Where we got our greeting degree.
Gravity lift.
or the greeting.
The greeting.
That's our
Kom, we
way
moeten
back
omhoog. Oké.
You just said- oh, fuck,
Hou je
sorry,
positie totdat de lift weer reactiveert. Oké, is goed. Oeh, er is een grotje hier waar we in kunnen, kind of. That's cute. Schattig bedoel ik. Natuurlijk, oh, ik ben dood.
sorry. No, maar I hate other languages. Yeah.
Ik ben dood, Jody, dat je het even weet. Ik ben dood. Oké, ik ben gestorven. Je wil dat ik je rapportages geef en zo van de missie. En ik vertel je nu dat ik dood ben, oké?
I'm scared.
Ik ben dood.
I'm so fucking scared.
Anyway, so I did the thing you asked me to do, so that's good.
Okay, good. What was that thing?
I told you.
Did you die? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I died, yeah.
Ship's control room.
Okay, well, maybe next time. Okay, fuck it. You're not
No,
gonna
that's
do
how
it
the redeem
anyway.
works. I have to talk Dutch for the entire duration of the
I
redeem.
know.
And then not elaborate on what I said at all.
I know. I mean, but you did. You told me that.
Yeah, because you asked
told
me a question, which was, did you die? And the answer is yeah.
Okay.
Like, what would I do then? It's like, would I just be like, I already told you? Because then you would also know, like, it doesn't
You have to
matter.
respond in Dutch because it was a.
No, that's not how
It
redeem
was
works.
No. Well, no, it's because it's a continuation of Dutch Zoe's conversation.
Look in the corners.
When you're speaking a different language, it means you're a different person. I'm sorry, I thought I was talking
scary.
to Dutch Zoe. Who are you?
It's me, Zoe, your friend. Dutch Zoe is my friend.
Dutch Zoe is my friend. You are English Zoe, completely different. Not the same person.
It's true. When you're in the Netherlands, you're
Oh,
There's a shotgun. I saw a shotgun. I want the shotgun.
I think this could be difficult because there's fucking. I don't think there's breathing room here.
But there was a shotgun. Damn it. We also, I don't think we can pause right now, can we?
No, we can't. I mean, we can't pause in general. Like last time we found a place where there was no enemies, but I don't think there's such a place in this ship.
Maybe not. We'll just have to find Captain Keys, and he'll be able to keep us safe.
God, I'm in a fucking whirl right now.
Oh my god, I'm such a goddamn motherfucking whirl. Not even address the chair.
Oh, fuck.
Well, I died.
You did die. I'm gonna try to fight through them.
Rebel, rebel, earrings on your dress. Rebel, rebel, your face is a mess.
Your
Rebel,
face is a
rebel.
mess.
Yeah, but like on purpose, you know, like you've got like wild makeup on and stuff.
Oh, fuck. Oh, I see, fair enough. I didn't realize that's what it said. Fuck. Can we not respawn? No, we've forced respawn. Okay.
I mean,
I think if we stand here, we might be safe.
yeah, just stay right here.
Guess it doesn't really matter if we both die over and over again while we're standing here, because we're just gonna respawn here anyway, so.
Yeah, just infinite respawning. All right. Yay!
Yippee!
Yippee! All right, come
So
here.
much fun! There you go. Check those coordinates.
Check those motherfucking corners. All right, so it's time for my Esther Gel, which means we will be taking a 20 or so minute break, during which we will play nice music for y'all. During this time, please remember to take your meds if you have to. Stay hydrated, stretch your leggies and get some snackies, and we will be back to find the amazing Captain Keys after
Award-winning smile.
afterward. I'm stuck.
You're stuck. What do you mean you're stuck?
You've got me stuck.
Oh, I'd already tapped out the game.
Okay, it's okay.
Hey,
This
Zoe.
is fine. Yeah?
So, you're stuck.
No!
That
Did you
didn't kill
not
me, what?
die?
No. There we go.
Okay.
We were both stuck.
Wait, I shot a bullet. Hold on, we have to restart.
What do you mean you shot a bullet?
I didn't want to waste a bullet. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Alright, okay.
Hello,
So,
Hal.
hi, Hal. Hi, hi. I hope you're good. We're about to take a break. So, yeah. I'm gonna do your egg, and then we're gonna take a break.
Yeah. The meds remind us most timely. It is. It's
Ah,
time to
very-
when Zoe needs to take her meds.
Yes, very good. Okay, see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Existential dread gets into your head, gets into your bed with you. Awful little thoughts tie you up in knots. Everybody's got a few. Endless are the nights, filling you with frights till you turn the lights back on. Reoccurring pains driving you insane. You hear but yet your brain is gone. When you turn around, there's nothing to be found. There's nothing pulling down on you. Nothing like a ghost. The horror show you host that leaves your mind the most to do. If I shook you now, would it get you out, or would you only sheets, tugging at your feet, and you are caught in something else. I can never love anyone enough to drag them back from out of hell. Take another breath, or scare yourself to death. There's no one here but you and I. Try and take control, 'cause you're the only soul that fits the hole your head's inside. No one else will know the places that you go when you're going down and down. Words cannot explain, you're in a hurricane that keeps you going round and round. I prefer the day if we both could stay, if the sun could rise again. We never know the fear that always finds us here when the day is at an end. And you know that there's no one there, but you still get scared sometimes. And you know that it's in your mind, push it right back through the blinds. And you know that there's no one there, but you still get scared sometimes. And you know that it's in your mind, push it right back through the blinds. You're paranoid from the waist down. You're paralyzed with the ways you waste your time. You wanna move, but you're just mine, and you get nowhere. You pack it in for the weekend. You pick it up and you move in a straight line, and you say you're just fine when there's no one there. I could fall in love with a girl like you. I could change my life if you want me to. I would give it all for a night like that. If it's what you like, if you loved me back. You put it off for a long time. You put the next episode on your TV, and you think about leaving, but you're not so sure. You hear a sound at the window. You aren't sure what the band is playing, or the words they're saying, while you lock the door. I could fall in love with a girl like you. I could change my life if you want me to. I would give it all for a night like that. If it's what you like, if you loved me back. If you loved me back, if you loved me back, what would life be like if you just do that? Take a hold of what's inside your broken heart. If you took my hand, would it be so hard to understand how the world was before it fell apart? When it all seemed doomed for a girl like you. I could fall in love with a girl like you. I could change my life if you want me to. I would give it all for a night like that. If it's what you like, if you loved me back. I could fall in love with a girl like you. I could fall in love with a girl like you. I could fall in love with a girl like you. guide me, please provide me with your hallowed song. I've been to hell and back, I'm losing track of the road I'm on. Help my recounting of this mountain rising in the dawn. I've been traipsing every terrace up in purgatory, crowded by sinner souls, stripped of every dignity, carrying the weight of what I've done and all the worst of me. I'm taking the long road, I'm starting the fire. Next time that you see me, I'll be higher. I see the pride, I see the envy and the anger now. I see the ones who wait, the ones who take or just stay out. I see the lovers without love and not without a doubt. The days are long, we walk in circles while the sun is high. We look for answers if there's chance for us in paradise. Heaven knows I will climb unto the stars to make things right. I'm taking the long road, I'm starting the fire. Next time that you see me, I'll be higher. Oh man, it's easy from the outside looking in. The stairs are not so tall for those who can begin. Oh, but I've been looking so far out of frame. I focus now upon my feet upon the path. I make the distance, let the stepstones do the math. I know the next half of life won't be the same. I'm not searching for a sliver of a silver line. I am taking what is left that I can say is mine. And if the road I'm on is long and winding, well, you know it's fine. I will be drinking from the river at the end of this, and know that when I look into the eyes of Beatrice, I will be purified of all that I no longer miss. I'm taking the long road, I'm starting the fire. Next time that you see me, I'll be high. Oh, so high. I'll be high.
Well, what the fuck?
Oh, hi.
You look different.
Yeah, I tried to see if I could green screen myself out. I thought that might be fun. Not entirely, unfortunately. Ah well, what can you do?
You can go back to normal. There you go. Hi everyone!
I was working on it.
Okay. I hope y'all had a good break. Let me do a little bumpies in the socials.
Stealth power up, hell yeah. No one can see me.
And there we go. Alright, hi everyone!
Hello.
So yeah, I hope y'all had a good break. Hope you did all the things.
All the stuff.
That too. Let me just put this on back on. And a sippy.
Must drink.
Thank
Zoe.
you. Yeah?
To your health.
To our health, and then but I already did it.
Damn.
Sorry.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm free.
She escaped.
Hee 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 hee. Hoo hoo. No!
I really wish that was visible from my side because you went round the corner going hee-hoo. And then there was an explosion and a grunt body just flew around. That's very funny from my angle.
That's good. Good start, good start.
Right, let's head out.
Let's go. We gotta get to Captain Keys, the coolest guy, the bestest greeter.
Why does my head keep saying Captain Kells? Who the fuck is Captain Kells?
Kells?
Yeah. Do you know a character called Captain Kells?
Did you mean Captain
My
Keys?
head keeps saying... No, my head keeps saying... Like, song in my head reminds me of a character called Captain Kells, but I don't know who they are or where their name's from.
I don't know. There's something wrong with your head.
Apparently so.
Maybe let Cortana check that out.
I don't want Katana anywhere near my head. She's rude.
Nah, that's her fine.
Being rude is the same thing as being evil.
She seems to have good intentions, but I do hate people who are rude.
So true.
I fucking hate people who think being rude is a fun and charming personality trait.
It's not. It's just rude.
It's just fucking rude. You're just an asshole. Fun fact, you're not like a fictional character that is judged as a character. You're a person that's just as a person, and you're an asshole.
Please stop being rude as a personality trait. It's not fun. I just don't like being around you.
And smug is a very, very slippery slope into rude. There's an enormous, like the Venn diagram of smug and asshole, rude asshole, are basically a circle.
I feel like there's people who see like certain anime characters and they're like, oh, everyone finds them charming. I bet I could do that. You can't.
Yeah,
you can't
absolutely.
do that.
No, you fucking can't. Oh, that's a hole. Oh god. They're bombed. They're exploding in the hole.
Are you alive down there?
Nope. Don't. Okay.
It's fine. I'm safe. I'm normal.
Okay, good. You didn't even steal my shotgun. I'm so shocked and surprised and happy about this.
I'm glad. But no, it's always important to remember in this life that you are not an anime character.
Yes. And trying to become an anime character is just a bad road to go down because
it's true.
Because you're not gonna be. You're just gonna get dysphoria.
Yeah, I wrote about that the other day on my Tumblr. It's like, I remember like the first 6 months of my transition after my cracked. I was like, damn, I can't wait to become an anime character. I was like, wait, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's not.
I feel like everyone has that sort of like at the start. You're like, oh my god.
Like
Imagine.
Punkid wrote a big post about that. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Just like imagine.
That's you!
You killed me!
Oh, I greeted you way too fucking hard. I'm so sorry.
Anyway, it's not worth it. Just give up now. You're not gonna become an anime character, neither
No.
physically or personality-wise.
Yep.
You're just gonna become an asshole.
You're gonna, personality-wise, you're gonna become an asshole, and physically-wise, you're gonna become a woman, a human woman, or man, if you know the other way around. But I feel like I don't see trans masks trying to be anime boys as much.
It's like another shuttle.
She's anime girls. Trans masks aren't trying to be anime girls. It's true.
You're trying to become Duke Nukem.
Yeah. You become your mom. You are more likely to look like your mother than anything else.
We have to
Yeah,
find her.
that exactly. That's like what Punk Explosive was about, and it was very true and real.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh god, fucking damn it.
God damn, shit's fucked. You're dead, I think. Did you die?
No, it's.
Hello, are you dead?
Yes.
You didn't tell me.
Dead, yes. I did. I said, God damn it, I died.
I just heard you say, God damn it.
Alright, fair enough. I guess it cut out then.
Guess so.
God damn it, Discord.
But these bad boys are popping, dude. Not in a good way. I'm pretty sure I've said that exact same sentence before.
I'm pretty sure you have, dude. Yeah, I think that's like the most important part of like, or the most important thing to like come to when you're transitioning. I was about to say for the first time, the most important transition for one time. If you're new to transitioning, the first thing you got to do is come to terms with the fact you're never gonna be anime girl. And the second thing is to come to terms with your body shape and your weight. Because while there's nothing wrong with trying to lose weight, chances are you're not going to do it as fast as you want, or like as much as you want.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be very upset about it. It's best to lose those expectations now, and you know, try and be happy with what you have, while changing it to what you want it to be.
Like for me, like a big thing was like before I started transitioning, is I was trying to. Part of me was trying to
Vitals are fading. Please, Chief.
convince me not to.
Yeah.
Because I was afraid that I wasn't going to perfectly transition. So that was like keeping me from being myself until I rationalized with myself and said, yeah, okay, I might not transition as much as I want, like as perfectly as I want, but I'll at least be better than this, you know?
You'll be closer.
Anything will be better than what I am now.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh yeah, either I can transition and the process might be scary, and hold on a second, hold on. The process might be scary, and the results might not be as good as I want. Or I can go my entire life feeling absolutely 100% completely fucking almost kill myself miserable about who I am now.
Yeah.
So
No, it's true.
yeah, and then I was like, well, whatever happens, and it's gonna be better than this.
Yeah, it's better to take the jump than to not go at all.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a very good conversation. It's time to meet our
What's this?
friend, Captain Keys, the
Yo, I
greatest
love
greeter of
Captain
all
Keys.
time. Let's go.
Yo, let's go.
What the fuck is that?
It's a blob.
That's a bad balloon.
It's a bad balloon blob.
Oh no.
It's a big balloon.
We should pop it. I'm sure it's no one we know. No.
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 No human life signs detected.
They ruined his award-winning smile.
Them.
No. They've taken all of the happiness out of
it.
him.
Off this ring. You know
They've
what
turned him into a bad balloon.
what he'd want us to do.
This is fucked up.
Yo, that's kind of cool though.
He gave us a final greeting.
His face is just gone.
It's gone.
Just a hole.
Get back to the Pillar of Autumn. Let's go back to the shuttle bay and find
Beat him.
the
We gotta put him out of his misery.
Gotta put him out of his misery.
Oh no, man, there's people coming for us.
Oh shit, okay, oh yeah. Thank you very much for the Man, these bad balloons are fucked, dude. Like, I still think that Joyful Spark was wrong. when he was like, I'm gonna use the ultimate greeting apparatus to say goodbye to all life in the universe.
Yeah.
Like, in order to prevent the bad balloons, also I died.
No. Okay.
But this is too much, you know?
This is too much. It's true.
Actually, I don't. Wait, no, what was it again? It's the ultimate hello will fix the bad balloons' hearts, but it'll also kill them.
It'll also kill them.
Okay, where do
So
we go?
in conclusion,
Back?
it's always worth it to transition, unless you're going to become one of these things, in which case don't. It's not
Please
worth
don't.
to try. Oh, fuck.
Oh god. Oh, okay, well.
Why are there so many grenades?
I don't know, like
fucking
everybody just carries 8 grenades with them for some reason.
Apparently so. What's that? I need to go back with my shotgun.
My health's
Oh, where is it? So
freaking nothing,
it's-
dude. Any health items down here?
There was a health item. Where are you?
Oh, where was it?
Where are you?
We took his captain key, yeah. We took captain's key, captain keys,
Oh,
captain
there you are.
key.
Over here. Here we go.
Good, thank you.
From Captain Kel's Captain Key.
Captain Key. Why do you keep calling him Captain Cal?
I don't know. I don't know where that's from. Like, I know it's a character I've heard of before, but I don't know who they are.
I keep wanting to call him Commander Keys because Commander Key was a character in the game series.
Commander Keen.
Oh, Commander Keen, that's it.
I have 1 health left. I hope there's
Me too, bud. And no shield at all. Okay.
Oh, fuck.
Shit, go, go, go,
Why
go,
do
go.
these assholes keep shooting at us?
They're greeting us.
Okay, right, I forgot. Honestly.
Grab one of these.
Oh god, fucking hell.
You died?
Yeah, I don't even know where that came from.
Oh god, they got a super thing. What was it? Oh, did we not get to use it? Sad.
A super thing.
Oh, here we go. You. Gimme.
I know you can't pick those up, they just explode and kill you.
Fuck, you can't use them in the multiplayer mode though. Hold on. Where's my shotgun? Did you pick it up?
I did pick it up, yeah.
Shit. Why are you laughing about that?
Because I lost my shotgun last time I died,
So?
so I decided to take yours.
Yeah, but you don't have to be. Wait, you decided. You did it on purpose.
Yeah, I did.
You did
it on purpose,
malicious intent.
yeah.
I died.
I picked it up, yeah.
Yeah, but
I
on
stole your
purpose.
shotgun.
That's
I
fucked
stole your
up.
shotgun on purpose,
Oh
yeah.
my god, Jody, you are not following the greeter code right now. The greeter creed.
I really wanted a
Greed
shotgun.
creed. Yes, so I also really wanted a shotgun.
Yeah, well, I wanted it more. If
Nuh-uh.
you wanted it, you would have died.
No, because shotguns are my favorite guns. Yeah.
So?
Yeah, so that means I wanted more. That's how that
No,
works.
it means I wanted more.
No, it doesn't. What do you mean? Why would that be what
I
it
wanted it
means? I don't think you did.
I have the shotgun. That's why I wanted them all. So I have the shotgun.
Where are
Where
you?
are you going? I'm here. Don't you fucking dare! I will execute you. I'll put you down.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, I know what you're planning. I'm not
doing-
turning
no.
my back on you.
I'm not doing
I'm not
anything.
turning my back on you. The fuck?
Fuck you! Ah!
Why'd you make me do this, Zoe?
Why do you make me do
this?
it?
No.
Yes. No!
No, get the fuck out of here. No, fuck. Shit.
Give me the motherfucking shotgun, dude. What? People shooting me. Where's the shotgun? Where is it? Wait.
It's on the floor somewhere. You've been shot at.
It's shotgun. Okay, I got it. Okay, let's bury the hatchet.
I'll bury you.
No!
Oh, fuck.
Ah! Here, I save you
fuck out of here,
from
dude.
these covenants.
Later, losers.
Okay, bye.
Left you behind.
Yay, we're both in a cutscene. Whoa! We're
Whoa.
both in a cutscene?
That's the first time that's happened, I think.
Dude, Mr. Chief didn't take over. their greeting spirit has been tarnished eternally. It's so over.
This is like the end of the second act where heroes are breaking apart. They their spirit has been broken. There's been an argument. We're both going a different way.
Yeah. But by coincidence, we end up in the same place, and we're like, all right, let's just keep going, I guess.
All right. Now there's no shotgun to fight over, so
we don't know that yet. I think we'll just both have one. Anyway, we're here. We're back at the greeting the Earth and Greeting Committee mothership.
The greeting of autumn.
The greeting
Pillar
of
of greeting.
The pillar of greeting, yeah. Sure. Which is being taken over by the babaloons, which is bad.
This thing is falling apart.
Really looks in surprisingly good condition.
We'll make it.
What'd you say?
I said this ship looks in remarkably good condition for having crashed from orbit.
You did it's
pretty strong.
On purpose, didn't you?
I really hope this sort of like almost cartoonish vibe holds through the rest of the series. I feel like it's not gonna, but I hope it does.
The bridge. From there, we can use
Remember?
Okay, yeah, this is no shotgun.
Remember how our adventures
Sorry.
began here?
engines.
I do, yes. I remember how
Enough
this.
systems below it to destroy the ring.
This control picture up.
I do a little bit of characterization for Chief. No, me too. And that was Chief. That was Mr. Chief.
Yeah. No, the characterization chief is a goofy fella.
He's a goofy fella that never accomplishes anything.
Yeah.
Oh! The balloons are here.
I do love how he's just like he just takes risks he does not ever need to take for any reason. Like just to piss off Katana sometimes.
No wonder she's so rude.
I know,
Just,
right?
if I was stuck in the head of a guy that just like pisses me off as a joke, I would also be
That's
like,
why I left my that's why I left my sewing machine repair job, because the guy I worked with just pissed me off as a joke constantly.
dick.
Like he really was, and like he was like really old, so like well, not that I was a HR, but like the people in charge didn't want to do anything about it. So I was like, yeah, I've done it. It sucks. No one likes it when you piss them off as a joke.
No. Once again, don't be rude.
Yeah.
Don't make being rude or smug your personality trait, because it's not good. It doesn't work. There's a pistol. Oh, there's a pistol. Let's go back. Let's go back.
Well, I'm trying to. Who's teleporting who?
I don't know. Where were we going? Where did we come from?
This way, I think. Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
But see, that's the problem. We cross the loading screen and it just teleports us.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like that. Fuck.
I do love how the little baboons move sometimes. It's very funny to me.
Oh.
Oh, fuck! Bears! For those curious, they're called that because there's two of them and they're in a loving relationship.
Yeah.
And they're gay. And they're big.
And they're gay. And they are of the bear subtype of homosexual.
Subtype.
Oh, a shotgun. sorry, there's a shotgun. It's down there.
Oh, you're just giving it to me?
Yeah, of course I'm just giving it to
Oh,
you.
you also got one. How long
Yeah.
have you had that one? This one has
Like the whole time.
no ammo.
Oh, okay. Well. Sorry?
What the fuck? Why did you do that? What the hell? I didn't do anything to you. What the fuck?
You threatened to. I saw that
No,
look
as
in your
a
eyes.
joke. Jody.
This is... I'm so funny.
Very disgusting behavior.
Trust no one, not even your fellow chef.
We worked in the kitchen together. I thought I could trust you.
I'm sorry, sorry.
Think of all the delicious meals we cooked together. Did they mean nothing to you?
Maybe next time you remember to prep the tomatoes.
That was 6 times.
6
Come
times.
on.
That's a lot of times.
Hold on, let me get my shield back up. Okay.
Anything down here? Oh,
We made it. Let's get to work.
the bridge.
Me when there's a river, I'm like, the bridge. We go across it now.
I hate like the system where you can get stuck with plasma grenades. It sucks. Like just instantly
it's
dying.
fun to do to
I had
people.
1 health. I hope you had less than 1 health because I nearly need that maker.
Sorry. I threw a grenade.
God fucking damn it.
You got blown up.
I did get blown up.
Like you're
When I
still
say
not telling
God
me when
fucking
you
damn it,
die, you
I'm
just
dead.
say God fucking damn it in a
Yes,
very
just
specific
assume
way.
I'm dead when I say God fucking damn it.
Yeah.
Located next to the main.
Did you take my shotgun?
Didn't know it was yours. Where's the pistol?
I picked it up. It's mine.
Oh. Well, I was gonna give it back, but okay.
Okay, we'll pick up this. This. Oh, never mind. This
Well, never mind. No, sorry, Mr. Chief has to do something.
Fuck you,
I'll be
Mr.
home
Chief.
for a few
Fuck, I fucking
days
hate
and
Mr.
look
Chief
what
so
happens.
much.
I hate him
Take
so
long.
much. We
There.
should
That should
blow
give
him
us
up.
enough time to make it to the lifeboat and put some distance between ourselves and Halo before the detonation.
She's purple again. She is.
She is. She's back.
I'm afraid that's out of the question, really.
Oh, hell.
Oh no, it's friendly for Joyful Spark.
You worships AI with such a wealth of knowledge. Aren't you worried it might be captured or destroyed?
No.
He's in my data arrays, a local tab.
You can't imagine how exciting this is to have a record of all of our lost time. Human history, is it? Fascinating.
And trust this guy. He seems kind of sus.
Yeah, not at all. Not. I mean, we're past trusting Joyful Spark. We know that his AI is off the deep end.
Oh, I will enjoy every moment of
Honestly, if this what happened today, I think I'd pass trusting anyone.
that you will destroy this installation as well as this record.
Maybe. I mean, I can't even trust you anymore.
Almost too sharp for words.
You can trust me.
You sure?
Please stop the self-destruct.
I'm sure, 100%, Zoe.
You punched me to death a couple times and
We're
stuff.
best friends, Zoe. You can trust me with anything. You can trust me if you're alive.
You need to stop talking.
Doesn't have control over the comm channels.
Why? What's wrong?
I'm
Shut up.
detecting taps throughout the ship.
Is there a
The
problem?
monitor.
Yeah.
He's in engineering. He must be
What
trying
is
to take
it?
the
What's
core
the
offline.
issue?
Even if I could get the countdown restarted.
It's that you haven't done
know
anything
what
to
to do.
re-earn my trust after
much
killing
fire
me, and then
power
you're talking like this, and then I'm like, oh, did...
Talking like what? I'm
Well,
talking
thanks for
perfectly
naming
normally,
past the
Zoe.
Okay, I'm coming with you.
Okay, you seem to be defending trust
I'm
issues,
gonna
Zoe.
blow you
Would you like to
out.
talk about it?
I'm gonna blow you out.
That's not a healthy way to deal with your
Oh,
problems,
he's gonna
Zoe.
die! Mr.
Finally,
Chief is
he's going to
dying,
die.
nice. Oh shit, shit.
fuck,
Oh,
now
of
I'm
course,
dying.
yeah, the moment, oh god.
Oh, fuck. And the moment trouble comes, then he legs it.
I blew myself up.
Okay, well. There you
Like,
go.
yeah, but like the fucking second that trouble arrives, it's like, oh, hold on, the chefs can take it. Where's my shotgun? Okay. Hi.
Did you take it?
Yeah, I took it.
Good.
I'm
What's
not
wrong?
What's
wrong,
you
Zoe?
know I have a shotgun now.
Yeah, what's wrong with it? Is there a problem, sir?
Yeah, you. We can't listen.
Go on.
Listen.
You've got
we
the shotgun, you take
shut
the
up.
point.
Shut up. Shut up. We can't keep doing this, okay? The universe depends on us. If he launches the ultimate greeting apparatus, everyone's gonna get greeted to death. Okay?
Yeah, I
we can't be having this.
understand.
Shut up. Stop talking like that, please. It's very unnerving.
What's wrong?
Stop. Hey,
I did not mean to hit you. That was an actual accident. I'm sorry.
well, too bad. You think they're still friends?
I think we're still friends, sorry.
Oh, hold on, I have to go back for my shotgun again. I hope we are. What?
Why are you shooting me? Why are you shooting me? Why are you shooting me? Stop shooting
threw a
me.
grenade at me. Why are you like this? What has gotten into you? Has the bad balloons?
Take point.
Have
Take point.
the bad balloons gotten to you or something? What is going on with you?
No, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. You're the one
I don't know
that's
about
acting
that. I don't think you're fine. You just killed me. Was that you?
weird. That was not me that killed you.
Okay.
I promise. There was like 3 of them with shotguns there. It definitely wasn't me that killed you. You back? You're back.
Hold on, I have to go back.
There's a shotgun here too. What are you going back for?
I wanted to grab my shotgun, but I guess we already got another.
No, you died over here. There's a shotgun.
Oh, I just
on the floor
respawned.
over there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
okay,
okay.
you respawned, yeah. Wait, where's the shotgun gone? What?
I got a shot. I picked up the shotgun.
Did you take the shotgun from my hands?
No.
No?
There's a shotgun over there anyway on the floor.
Okay, there is it. Oh, it's an armory. Cool.
Yeah. We went through her in the tutorial. Oh god, boyfriends.
Oh, this shotgun has no ammo in it.
Well, it's not mine. Because I didn't have a shotgun. Oh wait, I probably picked up the ammo from it and then left the shotgun by walking over it.
It will be yours soon.
Shut the fuck up. This bit is annoying.
I'm sorry, okay, I'll stop. I'll stop.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not gonna kill you. I'm not gonna kill you. I promise.
Thank you.
We have to rebuild that trust, sorry.
No, that's what I'm saying, you know? Like we can't be falling apart right now. The universe needs us.
You have to rebuild your trust after your awful betrayal, but yeah, I forgive
Mine?
you. Yeah, you're the one who killed me for a shotgun first.
Did I?
Yeah, you were, yeah.
Oh, Chad, is that true? Who started it?
Yeah, cause you died and then I picked up your shotgun on purpose, but I didn't kill you.
Oh
and then
yeah,
you
were
kill
no okay, but you still started it because you were nefarious about it. You did it on purpose and then you left evilly.
Okay, but like you did, your death was still not my problem. Did you try and hit me?
No. I tried to hit the door because there's an arrow here, so I was like, do we go here? I don't know.
Okay.
Check can vouch for me.
Okay. Go on then. You've got the shotgun, so you've got to take point.
Okay.
Because otherwise you're just gonna shoot me in the back.
Unlike you, it's gonna shoot me in the back. No, we're over that. We're past that.
We're past that, so we're friends now. We've always been
Friendsies.
friends.
It's true.
You
It's
know,
true.
it's normal in a friendship to have a couple of road bumps, you know, like it's, you know, that's
Where you
normal.
repeatedly kill each other over again.
This is...
Hello.
This is normal, so we're normal. This friendship is normal.
We're normal. We're normal. Chet, we're normal.
So look, come over here.
Wait, hold on. I'm being shot at or whatever. What is it?
Look at the screen. It's Master Chef.
It's no. Yeah, that's us. It's Master Chefs like
it's
us.
Yeah. They're big, such big fans of us. They put up pictures.
Wow. I mean, we are like kind of being the hero right now, so it makes sense.
We are. Is that fucking Doom guy? That wasn't Doom guy.
No, it wasn't. It was Isaac Clarke. Come on now.
It's Samus Aran.
Yeah, it's Samus Metroid.
Samus Metroid. It's Sammy Metroid.
It's Miss Metroid.
Sammy
Oh, fuck.
Metroid on first name basis. Would you like to be introduced?
That's my wife.
What do you mean that's your wife?
I'm dating her.
Oh, okay, since when?
Into marriage. Whoa, that was scary. Since always or something. Was that ever the channel lore that I was dating Samus? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think you're dating someone else.
I think I just wanted to.
Yeah, you've always wanted to date Samus. I don't think you ever were dating Samus though.
Yeah.
Who was it you were dating that I got really annoyed? Oh yeah, it was fucking
Ursula from Little Witch Academia.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not dating. That's my wife. That's my wife.
Oh yeah, she's also your wife. Yeah.
I think you're dating that Lego lady. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the butch lesbian Lego lady. Yeah.
I wasn't dating her though. I was trying and failing.
Yeah. You're trying to fail goal your way into a relationship.
Yeah. And instead I just failed my way into another relationship.
Okay, I don't think we got that swimming through this door. Fumbling the Lego bag.
Yeah, I was down bad and fumbling hard. I have 1 health and no shield. We should probably hold up in a second.
Okay.
If you see any health, let me know.
I will.
Probably not supposed to go this way.
Oh, armory.
Nice.
Nice. Oh, here we go.
Here we motherfucking
Yeah,
go.
baby.
Yeah.
Rocket launcher.
Oh, I'm full up.
Me too. Hell yeah, this is the best.
The rocket launcher is probably more useful in single player. Oh fuck!
Maybe.
Oh my god! The bad balloon. It was using the surprise greeter technology.
Oh fuck! It is.
I did just like shoot right at you. It was because there was a greeter between you and me.
No, I believe you. It's fine. We
not a
have
greeter.
trust now. Sorry.
Yeah, we trust each other
We
now
have trust
forever.
now. Remember?
Yeah, don't worry, Chad.
it's
We
fine.
trust each other 100%.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Actually, fumbling the Lego lady but managing to hit it with Samus Aran is really fucking funny to me. Okay, but I didn't though. I'm just her friend. We're just close friends.
Just close friends. Just very good friends.
I haven't found the time yet,
away.
you know? Light fuse, run away.
That's my MO.
Located. We're here.
I'd recognize it laughing anywhere. It's
The
joyful.
monitor has disabled command access. We can't restart the count now. The only remaining option is to
We're gonna have to kill him.
We gotta kill
We have
this
to kill this
motherfucker.
guy, sorry.
That should
Oh,
do
hell
enough
yeah.
damage to destroy Halo. Don't worry, I have access to all of the reactor schematics and procedures.
Oh, don't run in front of me.
First,
I didn't
we
realize you were
get back
shooting.
to the exhaust couplings. That will expose a shaft
Health.
that leads to the
Nice.
primary fusion.
Do you need health? There's health kits here.
No, I've got good health.
All right, this is. There he is.
Processing matrices are realigning.
Hold on.
Where is he?
Right here.
Are you killing him? Is he dead?
He seems to be using anti-greeting force fields.
That's fucked up.
I know.
They don't
And
like
even- and
those
even
in
though
the
we have-
core?
No, we fucking don't. It's bad form, you know. How'd you get up there?
It's baffling. I jumped. I took the stairs as well.
Oh. I know what those are.
Unfortunately, this is not the way to go, though. I don't know what stairs are.
Didn't teach me. I had that SpongeBob moment, you know, like remember, forget everything except for breathing and greeting.
Recategorizing data for processing and storage now.
Do you remember? Do you remember stairs?
No. This is also true. All of Samus's girlfriends tend to end up dead.
Good. Step 1 complete.
It's like
How many does she have?
all her exes
Need a catalyst
first
explosion.
formed they either form an organization
Grenade or rocket.
of like smaller bounty hunters or whatever the hell the lore was that we came up with, or they get corrupted by Phazon and turn evil and then have to be killed also.
If you
But
want to
maybe I
date
can be
Samus,
the
you have
one,
to
you
defeat
know?
his 7 evil exes.
Well, they all got killed also by Phazon. Phazon just kills all of Samus's girlfriends, either by corrupting them or just by killing them. It's kind of fucked up, and then also
Yeah.
corrupting them. But then, like, once
really
they're
is.
corpses.
It really does only do one thing.
For this installation.
Yeah, really? It's very petty.
Yeah. It's like, oh, is that Samus? Is that someone related to Samus? Oh, I guess I better start doing my job now.
Yeah. I found the stairs. They were labeled stairs. They're
Yeah,
also
that
not
makes
stairs.
sense.
These are ramps.
I didn't know that you were actually looking for the stairs.
I was just sort of... I fell.
Okay. So I've just been doing the boss fight on my own. If you could call it that, I suppose. I've done one of the couplings already.
I'm coming to help.
So
I not fall
basically,
down
for
this
those of
time.
you who aren't following, We gotta blow up the engine core and it'll just blow up the ship. So that jolly spark doesn't fucking take over the ship. And
Which
to
is
do that,
important.
we need to shoot rockets into these engine room things.
Oh yeah,
You know, the
forgot about
classic
that.
thing. Yeah. So we gotta press this button. And then we gotta jump on here. Did you pick up a rocket launcher, Zoe?
No, but you can use grenades.
Fair enough. I'd like to use the rocket launcher.
I did
It's
wrong.
more satisfying.
It's also easier. Do you have a rocket launcher?
I do have a rocket launcher, yes.
Okay. I fell.
Oh,
Only a little bit.
Wait, what? That missed?
You gotta do it when
There
it's
we go,
open.
got it.
Nice.
It was open. It was
that?
open, it just didn't blow up.
This AI construct possesses far too much data.
I will say this this fight is not particularly exciting. You just have to walk up the stairs 4 times and
Yeah, it's not the most interesting thing in the world.
Not acceptable, Reclaimer. You must
Damn it.
surrender
Did you get it?
Nope. Just
damn.
use the rocket, it's way easier.
Yeah.
Only time in
Oh,
the
shit.
in the game you should use the rocket launcher.
So go wait for it to reopen. There we
Yay! Ow, fuck!
go. One more to go. I'm going to drop down to the stairs again.
One more fusion reactor to
I know.
go.
I mean, I do, but it's only one flight stairs. This
Being a bit
part just
flighty
kind
on
of
these
sucks,
stairs.
yeah.
I mean, if you ask
It's-
me, the whole second half of the game has sucked.
It's just, to me, it's like,
ignore your task.
first-person shooters just often seem to struggle with the idea of a boss fight. God damn it.
It's fine, I got you.
Damn it. It's
There we
impossible
go.
to do with grenades.
It's impossible, it can't be done.
It cannot be done. Anyone in chat's lying. Anyone in chat is lying right now. I died.
Everyone in chat. Okay, I'm getting the fuck out of here then.
Critical.
Yeah.
Based on the current rate
I was supposed to hit the
Oh,
Delta
you're
with you. I am.
minutes to get off the ship. We don't have
Lost my
much
shotgun
time.
though, which is sad.
Move outside and signal for evac.
Maybe we can
Accessing
drop by on the
There's a service
what you
lift
call
at
it,
the
the
top of the
Armory?
engine.
armor on the way home.
Leads to a
Yeah.
Class
That'd be
7
nice.
service corridor
No,
that
it's
runs
locked
along
off.
the ship's dorsal
Shh.
structure. Hurry!
Get us out of here.
We went the wrong way.
Shit.
But
I'm
at
so
least
glad we
you're
don't have
back,
time
that's what
limit.
matters.
Yeah, at least we're together
too.
again.
Yeah, as good friends.
Go, go, go.
This way.
Isn't this where we came from?
Yeah, but we need to go that way.
Okay. Wait. Dead.
What?
Oh, yes, yes! My shotgun! I got it!
Hell yeah.
Where are you?
Like
I'm
you
going to die.
described it as it. It's fine, I'm gonna continue running.
Where are you?
I'm going to the exit.
Okay,
Okay,
you left
gotta
me.
go up the stairs. I'm sorry. I didn't leave you. You got distracted by quote unquote a dead.
It was my corpse!
Okay, I'm waiting
In
for you up
hindsight,
here.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. Let's go.
You left me. I know I did not. What are you on about?
It felt like you did.
Yeah, well, I'm just, you know, I'm very objective focused, so, you know, you gotta,
Yeah, me too. My objective was to get my shotgun back.
there's a lot of explosions happening. I think we should leave.
Fair enough. Kaleva streams, I cannot
I
get
don't
your
think-
egg right now. We are escaping the Earth and Greeting Committee's headquarters, the mothership.
Oh, hi.
Hello. Oh, okay, careful, careful.
I don't think those guys should have been here.
No, doesn't seem very smart.
So you shouldn't take the elevator in case of fire. It's dangerous.
No, no, absolutely should not. Oh god, okay, egg real quick. But thank you very much.
Come in, Echo 419.
Would you like a smiler, Zoe? Because there's one on the floor next to you.
No, I got the assault rifle and the shotgun. Those are good. Can't go wrong with the classics, you know. This is no time for favorites except for the shotgun. This is a time for survival.
I could use more ammo for the shotgun.
We're gonna greet the hell out of this place.
We are.
Negative. We have a wildcat destabilization of the ship's fusion core.
Oh, we should get in one of these. We should get in an all-terrain greeting vehicle.
Pull
Get
that
in,
second
bud.
into the back.
There we go.
Hell yeah, let's delta out of here.
Let's fucking delta. Are we supposed to go this way? I think we're supposed to go this way. Let's delta out of here. Let's go.
This ride is cream tune. Oh fuck. Oh, this part. This part took me so many tries because like it just kept flipping my car for no reason. I was like,
I think this part is awesome. And hold on. Okay, we have a time limit.
Yeah, we have a time limit. Yeah.
I like that the time limit starts now. Wow, I'm killing them with my car, which is okay to do now.
It's fine because they're evil anyway.
Because they're
They're
bad balloons.
ontologically evil, and there's nothing against, no action against them, which is bad.
Exactly. I think this part is awesome because I get to drive the car really good.
All right, when are you gonna start doing that?
Shut up. I meant good as in it's fun. Look, I'm doing a little job. Yay!
Yo.
Gotta go in here for some reason.
Where do we need to go?
It's a shortcut. I played it on Mario
Oh,
Kart.
okay, so.
I know that there's an Easter egg somewhere around here. I don't remember where it is. I'm not gonna bother unless I find it. But oh shit, that's not a ramp. Where you can find a grunt just sitting there being like, "Oh, I'm so excited to go home to my loving wife and have a nice sandwich. I'm so excited. It's my yeah, you know, like my tour is almost done. I can't wait." You know, it's
5 seconds from retirement.
exactly. It's so funny.
Poor grunt.
Whee!
I hope the military pays out well.
Frenchie, it's not good for him. Like, the one's gonna die and blow up.
No, it's good for him. He hated his wife. He's a boomer. Oh boy,
I can't wait to get blown up and not go back to my wife.
My hateful wife. And my child who's always on the Wi-Fi.
The hateful wife.
The hateful wife. A wife. I already have Wi-Fi. A wife I hate.
Terrible.
I love those fucking comics.
Stop. This is where Bowhammer is coming to pick us up.
Okay.
Hold position here.
I can't wait for Fohammer to come. She's like a girl and possibly a lesbian.
Hell
Although
yeah,
she's
dude.
now.
Echo 419.
Oh, yay. Whoa,
Yay,
it's
she's
over.
coming.
We're done. Yay.
Oh
What?
no.
No.
No, Fohammer, no.
Fohammer, no. You're our best friend. What are you doing? You're just shooting hors d'oeuvres.
I'm taking her to thing out of her misery.
You're shooting hors d'oeuvres to try to give her like some more health force. I get it.
That's true.
Shit. Well, fuck.
I can't believe Fohammer's dead as fuck. That
That's
makes me
fucked up.
very sad.
Oh, the music.
Bum. Trust me, it gets less epic when you've had to retry this thing 7 times.
Yeah, we're not doing that because I'm gonna get it first fucking try, baby.
I believe in you.
Thank you.
Just remember, when it says you can make the jump, it's lying to you. It's fine. We did flip. Oh fuck.
We're clearing it!
We did not clear it.
Oh, darn.
That's the part where I died so many times because my vehicle just ended up upside down a lot.
Damn. Couldn't have been me.
The physics were just not on my side that day.
You just don't know how to wrangle them like I do.
Move! We need to get aboard now!
Get out, get out. Go,
I'm
go,
already
go.
out. I'm already heading there.
Oh, fuck.
I'm already thanking all these people for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
Hope
for
to see you
playing our
again.
game.
Go, 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 go. Fucking Mr. Chief is here.
I'm so glad we merged into one person to make this easier. We got a Delta out of here.
We could have dealt out of here like we've never dealt out of here before.
Here we go.
Those alien bastards gonna pay for shooting up my ride.
For shooting up the entire grading committee's ride. But we blew it up. Oh yeah.
Dude, it's true. They shot it up first though, that's the thing.
That's true. After Hard Day's greeting, it's time to say goodbye. Nice, very good.
I'm so glad we're never gonna see that Jolly Spark guy again.
I'm so fucking glad he's dead for real.
Yeah, there's no way he could have escaped that.
Not at all. Goodbye, Halo, you big ring with stuff on it.
Sorry, I think we just said hello to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Maybe we have become the Jolly Spark.
No. Because...
No.
No, because we just destroyed the Halo, you know? And that part wasn't even on purpose, I don't think.
No, I think we're just trying to blow up the ship and this is just like...
Yeah, we tried to blow up the ship because we had to stop the bad balloons from spreading negativity to everyone and taking the happiness and the positivity and such out of everyone. And we had to do it by preventing them from leaving the planet.
For Earth.
The ring, I mean.
Entire Covenant Armada.
Yeah, we did what he had to do.
Yeah.
We had no choice.
We had no choice.
We had no choice.
It's finished.
It's finished. Never. Halo is done, everyone.
Halo's finished.
They
This is
didn't
the
make
only
any
game
more.
they ever made. No, this is their Final Fantasy.
Halo
gang,
alternate
this-
ending where instead of here we go, Chief says I can't fucking drive,
I can't fucking drive.
and then like bum 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 ba da 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 da, and then it just ends, and then they blow up and it's the end.
We did it, Master
We
Chef. This
did
is
it.
our true Halo.
Fellow Master Chef, I am so proud of us.
This truly was our Halo Combat Evolved.
This truly was our hello greeting evolved. Come on, dude.
Sorry. And then just unceremoniously chucks us into the menu again.
Yeah, no credits or nothing. That's kind of cringe.
No, it doesn't play the credits for because the credits are all like one thing in this collection. So
Right, of course.
there's no credits, unfortunately.
Well, we did it. We defeated
did it,
Hello.
Hello.
We did it. The lore held up the entire time. It all
really
made
did.
sense.
I can't wait to what's the word? I can't wait to jump straight into Hello 2.
Well, we're not
Which we're
doing that.
definitely gonna do right now.
No.
we're doing it right now.
Okay,
Halo-
then I
Halo 2,
guess we
let's-
are. Here we go.
No, do not start up Halo 2, I swear to God.
So I've never played any of the other main Halo games, so this will be exciting.
Really? You've never played any of the others?
Nope, I've played Halo 1 a bunch. I've played Halo Wars a little, and I've played Halo Spartan Assault. That's it.
Fair enough. How was your replay through of Halo 1? Did you think it held up?
I think it held up as well as I thought it did. which is that it's got very good aesthetic and music, and just generally feels pretty cool. And the story is interesting, and then the second half is fine.
Damn, you're much nicer to it than I am.
I guess so. I guess I do have nostalgia for it, which you don't.
Yeah, I don't think this is a particularly good game at all. Like the first few missions are fine when you find the Covenant, but the second the Flood is introduced and the game becomes entirely backtracking. I like the first 3 missions basically, and I think the rest is trash. Like I hate Halo combat evolved, especially the instant kill fucking rocket launcher guys. Like
that
on
stuff's
single
not
player,
great.
No, that's the most annoying thing possible.
What is the Master Chief Saga? Just the entire? Oh no, wait, because that doesn't involve ODST and Reach because you don't play as Master Chief in those.
No. Yeah.
So it's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, I assume.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Interesting. Hello too. Hello again. My joke was gonna be like hello as well.
Hello
like 2 TOO as well. Same word.
The rocket enemies aren't in the other games. That's good. I'm happy.
Nice. Also, it is a bummer. Yeah, like credits are good for decompressing after a long game. It is. It's a good moment to like really like take in what you just did and like consider your opinion on it and stuff. Yeah. And like talk about it with anyone you're playing with or with chat or anything. It's a good time. So it's a shame that it didn't happen.
Yep.
In for a treat with 3.
Gray menu.
Really though. Yeah, I hear 3 is good, and as well as Reach. Yeah, I think I played some of Reach originally, like years ago, on stream with Luke, but I think we only did one stream and didn't continue it for some reason. I don't know. Or maybe that was ODST. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I've only ever played Halo 1 and 2, so.
You hadn't played any of them until like a few months ago.
It's true, I didn't. Hopefully 3 is as good as everyone says it is. Because I've been thoroughly unimpressed so far.
I thought you enjoyed 2.
2 was better than 1, but I still wasn't particularly impressed, I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, alright then.
At least the guns felt like they were guns rather than fucking water super soakers.
You hate the guns so much.
Halo 1 has shit guns. Like, the lack of recoil really does hinder them. They don't, like, I feel like I am just, like I don't feel any punch. Like, it feels like I'm just walking forward, spraying everything down. Like, it doesn't, nothing satisfying in Halo 1 that comes from the guns.
I don't agree. I think they're fine. Like, I understand what you're saying, and it is kind of weird when I think about that there's no recoil, which most guns always have in games. But it doesn't bother me, you know?
You completely cut out so I didn't hear
I think you're full of shit and dumb.
Okay, that makes sense. That's what I assumed you said. That sounds like you. That sounds exactly what you'd say.
No, I said that I understand where you're coming from, and it is kind of weird that they don't have recoil, but at the same time, I don't mind at all.
Fair enough.
It doesn't bother me at all. I think it's fine. I think they're fine.
Well, it bothers me, so... That's sort of Half-Life and Half-Life 2's gunplay incorrect, completely false. As someone who's played a lot of Half-Life 1 and 2 and continues to do so constantly...
Well, no. You can't say incorrect and false to that, because Banshee Strike says that it reminds them of it. That's an opinion. It's a personal experience. You can't say that that's incorrect.
Half-Life 2 does have recoil. That's just incorrect.
Well, still.
I played Half-Life 2 like 2 days ago. It definitely has a recoil. Okay, well, I'm not arguing with Banshee Strikes.
Maybe Banshee Strikes are remembering wrong, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, that was the game. We did it. Yeah. We greeted so many people. We stopped Guilty's joyful spark from greeting too many people too hard and killing them all, which is pretty fucked up. And we definitely stopped the bad balloons. They're all gone and dead and gone now.
I'm so proud of us.
I'm so proud of us. And Cortana also helped, and Mr. Chief did nothing.
Yes, I assume Cortana helped.
Cortana helped, I think. She, like, navigated us and stuff.
Kind of rude.
She was, but you know, her contribution cannot be ignored. Is what I'm saying.
I guess
you know?
that's true. I guess that's true.
Yeah. She was a girl.
Thank you, Katana.
It's very true. She was a girl.
She was girl. That was. Is that the contribution of giving her? She was a girl.
No, it's just another contribution. Also, Mega VT, I know that a lot of like diehard Halo fans have like oh no, but the recoil is because you're so big and powerful. It doesn't mean it's not kind of a weird choice that doesn't really make sense. Again, it doesn't bother me. I do think it's weird. You know?
I when I streamed this, I had like 3 people in chat being like, "Oh, there's lore reason for the lack of recoil," and I still stand by. I don't give a shit about your lore. If your game doesn't feel fun to play, it doesn't feel fun to play. I don't care if your lore is so. Where are the U-bots?
Where are the U-bots? God damn it! This keeps happening. The U-bots always hide behind everything for some reason. Playing hide and seek with me anyway. Found ya. Yeah, like a lot of times when something is bad in a thing, again, I don't think the recoil is bad, but a lot of times when something is like where there's like a weird gameplay choice or something, or like a character, especially female characters, like poorly written or poorly designed, people would be like, but lore, and it's like, yeah, the lore is just there to facilitate that choice. You're like, did you really think that Quiet had to be designed like that? You know?
If your lore leads you to making bad gameplay or story decisions, then you have written bad lore or made a bad game. Pick one. Like if you can excuse the problems, then you've still made something that has a problem. Like apparently deliberately, according to you. So
my favorite is just like when a female character like has some weird sexist kind of thing going on, like the armor she wears or something, and then it's like, but see, the character does this because it's empowering to her. She's written by a man. You know, like a writer wrote that in, exactly like When She Strikes says.
Fucking, there's a guy being like, "Oh yeah, she has to wear a bikini, but don't worry, I've decided she really likes it."
Yeah, she likes it like that.
She likes it. She has no problem whatsoever. I've written so it is true.
Exactly. It's just so funny to me when people are like, "Oh no, but see the lore explains this dumb shit."
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
No, stop. Cease at once.
I think this is the other way around. The choice is there to support the lore, but it doesn't mean it's a net positive. I don't know. I never even considered that there was no recoil in this game, and I've played it a bunch. Also times when I wasn't making a bit out of it, and I was paying attention to the lore, and I never figured that there wasn't any recoil because of the lore or because of his power armor. So I assume that was not the original intent was not, there's no recoil because he's got power armor. It's that they later decided, and there's no recoil because he has power armor, right? Yeah, I feel like that's not an original thing, that it probably came later, you know? Yeah,
but also, like, if the lore reason that there's no recoil because he had power armor, why do then the games going forward have recoil? Because Halo 2 has recoil. I assume the other ones do, because so that makes no sense. Yes, it's just cope. People are just coping.
I feel like the odds of CE's lack of recoil being intentionally programmed are very, very low. Oh no, the more proper explanation for it that I know is because this game, upon release, was primarily for Xbox. Yeah. And so they decided not to do any recoil because that's a lot harder to adjust for with a controller than with a mouse. That's an explanation that I accept. That's what I think is real. It's not, the lore. No.
No, it's not the lore.
It's fine. It's fine to say now, it's because of the power armor, but I just don't believe that that's the original intent. You know?
Yeah, that's definitely not deliberate. Like, it's definitely a gameplay thing, and
it's retroactive.
Not a lore thing. Yeah. Which is also such an odd thing. Like, why do you need to write lore for why there's no recoil in the Halo 1? Just say it's because it was on the Xbox. Like, why? Like, honestly,
You don't need explanation for that, yeah.
Yeah, the fact you decided to write lore, like, for it just makes you seem like you're kind of ashamed of the fact there's no recoil and have to blame it on something.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I don't know, it's just kind of funny to me. And I mean, and I'm not saying, okay, it doesn't have to be one or the other when it can be both. Okay, it is quote unquote both, right? Like, the in-universe explanation for no recoil in Halo 1 is because of the armor.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think that the reason why they came up with that is because they decided there wouldn't be any recoil because it worked better on console that way. And then we're like, how do we explain that? You know? Like, so the explanation for the explanation in lore is the original explanation, which is it's on Xbox, so they wanted to it's harder to adjust for recoil, so they took it out. You know? That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Also explains why they added more recoiling too, since they put the aim assist on steroids. Yeah, exactly. Like, does the boss have recoil? I mean, I'd punch. Like, I move my entire upper body when I do punches and stuff, so does that count as a recoil?
I don't think it does, because I think in order to have recoil, you need a force acting upon you, so...
Yeah. I don't think I have recoil. Also explains why they had more recoil on 2, since they put the aim assist on steroids. That's, yeah, like, once people figured out aim assist in video games, they could do recoil again in console games, because then you don't have to adjust as much. Anyway, I had fun. This was a good time.
I had fun too.
Yay.
Yeah, it's much better with two people.
Everything's better with a
being
friend.
blown up by a rocket didn't mean I had to go back like 10 minutes, so...
Yeah.
yes, everything is better with a friend, yeah.
Yeah. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction except punching.
It's true.
It's true. It's more, okay, it's not so that much that I think that punching doesn't have a recoil. It's more that I think that punching already is such a full body movement where, like, your vision shifts so much already when you're doing it that any recoil is it's part of that, you know, like, you don't have specific it's negligible to mention that you have recoil because you're moving your entire body already, you know.
Yeah.
Also, my enemy's face recoils from my punch, so real.
Yeah.
But we are most likely going to play Halo 2 as well. Don't know when yet. Maybe already next week, maybe not next week yet. We'll see. Maybe not, actually, because after next week I'm gonna have the bottom surgery, so then like start Halo, then gonna have to wait for like a month. Maybe I should have waited with Signalis then, huh?
Maybe. It's hard to start like any series now because obviously you've got a big break coming up, so...
Then
because the bottom surgeries, because you've got next week, then bottom surgeries in Monday the week after, so like that week's written off, so...
Next week I can stream, but the week after I cannot.
Yeah, the week after, so...
Yeah, that entire week it's gone because the
Halo 2 all in one stream, baby. Let's go.
Do it. Just a whole day of Halo. I mean, hello. Hello. But yeah, now I'm actually considering whether or not I should do Signalis still.
That is because I hear that's not a short game, so.
It's about 9 hours long apparently, so it'd be like 3 or 4 streams.
Yeah.
So I had one this week and then one the next, and then like I would just have to wait an entire month until I can finish it.
Doesn't seem ideal.
Much to consider, yeah. So I might change that into something else. Anyway, my throat is starting to act up a little bit again. I had a bad throat earlier today, so we're gonna end the stream here. Jody, would you like to plug anything while I look for a rate target?
No, just plug myself. Hi, my name is Jody. You can find me on twitch.tv/DynLope if you want. I stream first-person shooters and platformers. This Thursday, I'm playing Pseudo Regalia with a friend, so you should come check that out. Pseudo Regalia is very fun.
It is.
I should be live tomorrow, but I'm not sure I'm playing, so I don't know, come find out, I guess.
You should. You may shout yourself out in chat, obviously. So, we are going to. Oh wait, first. Tomorrow I'm working on the 3D model of my castle. That's gonna be nice and chill. Exclamation point links in chat if you wanna see all my notification socials, whatever. You can figure it out. We are going to be raiding Ellie Spectacular, my friend, who is working on a YouTube poop of Volvic, which was a big funny thing back in much earlier internet days. These commercials about water. There was a dinosaur. There was a volcano. They had bits. It was so good.
They were all over the television when I was young.
They were all over the television. Yeah, they were a British thing. I did not see them on TV, I think. But I did. I did at one point like see the actual water bottle in a store at some point. And I was like, "Oh my god!" You know. Anyway, so we're gonna go over there. The raid message is.
Hello. We did it. We greeted the universe.
we greeted everyone.
I believe there's no one left to greet. And so Master Chief wept, for there was no one left to greet.
Yeah, that's it. And so the Master Chefs wept. Hold on. The Master Chefs wept, for there were no lands left to greet. To say hello to. That's the right message. Okay, so thank you guys so much for coming. I hope you've had a wonderful time.
It was great.
Start to raid. And I hope you all have had a very good start to next year and stuff. The current year. Thank you guys so much for coming. Goodbye.
See you later, gang. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.